Home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Hello, how are you doing? It's the tooth of 2021. Second day of the second month of this year. Yes, karibu sana to Tuesday. And we're glad that you are able to join us this early morning. Ndu Oko and C.T. Muga are in the house. C.T., let's start with you.
Yes.
Say hello to Ndu.
Ndu Oko, how are you this morning?
I am fine, thank you, CT. How are you?
Super.
Oh, super even. I like that. You look in great health.
I am in great health, and this is where now I have to quote other people. There's a friend of mine who I work with from time to time. I think the official name that people know him by is Eric Latif.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes, this particular person, when he's excited and happy with the things the Creator has brought his way, he says he thanks God. So even me today, I'm going to thank the God.
Wow, okay. Well done.
Yes. Sawa basi.
Please ask Eric how he's doing.
Eric Latif.
Yes.
How are you this morning?
Mimi niko salama kabisa.
Asante sana.
Wewe uko super?
Nashukuru.
Mimi niko fifawa.
Yep.
FIFA.
Fifawa.
Well, you know, if somebody wants football connotations early this morning,
I know.
that is all right.
You know, people like Betty Asley of Macha, if she goes to fuel at a petrol station, especially a Shell petrol station, and she wants that kind of fuel, she cannot say V-Power.
Oh, that's what we're doing? Okay.
Beef hour.
It's a FIFA.
Or a beef
Nataka
hour.
FIFA.
Or a beef hour.
Unataka super ama V-Power? Wewe uko gani? Ama uko regular?
I'm definitely not regular.
Karibuni sana katika kipindi cha leo. We will be discussing a number of things. One, we'll be looking back at the life and times of the son of Nyandusi, the Syria chief. And this is the man who rose to be almost like the second prime minister of the republic. Semen Nyachai, for all intents and purposes. He passed on yesterday, lived a full life. We'll be looking at that in the newspaper review. We'll also be having a conversation with somebody who is really, really, really passionate about agriculture and agribusiness, and especially about how industries can then be responsible in agriculture and agribusiness. Dr. Bimal Kantaria, he is the chairman of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance Agriculture Sector Network. We'll have a conversation with him. Then we'll also look at, so Google has given us $1 billion as a country. Well, Google has committed $1 billion to Kenya to help with Kenya's post-COVID-19 recovery strategy. Some 300 million goes to SMEs, some 500 million goes to startups, some 200 million goes into charity. So we will be speaking with the boss of Google in East Africa, Agnes Gadaya. She'll be telling us about this, and we'll ask to find out if you're an SME, if you're a startup, how do you access this? And if you are also running a humanitarian charity of any sort, how can you tap into this to help communities? All right. Then you saw the drama that was happening yesterday. Absolute nonsense of a showing. We will have that conversation. Funeral attended by more than the number of people that is stipulated for a public gathering. But that's not the point. It's attended by senior leaders of the Republic. This is the Deputy President of the Republic, the leader of the official opposition, and their lackeys. And then the lackeys decide that this is where they are going to show off that they are the Hitras. And it all went south. We'll have a conversation about this, on what is happening in this country, what was happening there, and what we all think about that. Okay, maybe there's some justification politically. Maybe there's some justification, culturally.
To behave like an absolute idiot.
Maybe there is, some
Eric,
justification.
you are actually proposing that we consider that there's a justification for violence,
For
isn't it?
barbaric violence.
Maybe there is,
Really?
Maybe.
Really?
Okay.
I will wait for you to
That should be
actually
very
convince
interesting.
me and tell me what this justification is.
There's probably, some justification here or there.
Probably.
Yeah. So let's discuss it with an open mind. Yes. So keep it right here for this and more conversations. COVID-19 in numbers.
Okie doke. So let's look at the numbers around the world. 103 million now is what we are looking at. And looking at the top countries that continue to deal with this, the United States now on the brink of 27 million cases. Let's look at the numbers that they brought in yesterday. The United States recorded, as of yesterday, so now the day finishing today, and the latest report we saw is 125,454 new cases. Out of this, total of 12,836 older confirmed cases, and another 1,244 older probable cases were reported. What this means, essentially, is that they had taken information or taken samples from these individuals and now were able to confirm them only now as being positive. About a tenth of the total numbers fall into this category. All right, so let's look at numbers around the world. Apart from the United States, in India, we're still looking at just above 10 million cases, 9 million cases now in Brazil, 3.6 in Russia, 3.8 in Russia, 3.8 in the UK, 3.2 in France, and 2.8 in Spain, 2.5 in Italy, 2.4 in Turkey, and 2.2 in Germany. The next country after that is Colombia. And so we still look at high numbers where we see, again, the top 10 countries in the world making up almost 50% of the global coronavirus cases. All right, let's look at news coming out of Tanzania. We did hear reports, some say unconfirmed, of now cases of top government officials having been found COVID positive. How they're choosing to deal with this, of course, is hush-hush. Nobody's talking about cases in Tanzania. We know that as far as John Pombe Magufuli's government is concerned, COVID is not a thing in Uganda. However, in Tanzania. However, the health ministry yesterday now is urging citizens of the same country where there's no COVID to practice hygiene and use traditional medicine to treat COVID, should you come across it, all right? And I'm going to quote what she said. She said in Dodoma yesterday, we Tanzanians should be a good model to our neighbors, to our neighboring countries, in improving our personal hygiene and the use of local herbs, which are not only for COVID-19, but for other diseases as well as asthma, flu, and other novel diseases. So Tanzania can serve as a good model to Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi, where COVID is rife. Okay, the government chemist had worked on a number of natural local remedies that have met safety standards according to them, and then you can go ahead and use these to protect yourself from COVID-19. So she said, now let's improve personal hygiene and the environment by washing our hands, maintaining social distance, and running water and soap, using sanitizers and other traditional remedies. So Tanzania now, with what they have, can serve an example to the region, to show the rest of the region how it is.
I think they can, and I think they've been doing that in terms of one, the citizens listening to their government, and two, in terms of being very keen on the use of the herbal remedies. Right. From the very beginning, Tanzania, even in parliament, even before the elections, they talked about this. And if you talk to several people who have been to Tanzania, who've interacted with Tanzanians, people who are in Tanzania, they'll tell you this is like a very, very normal thing for people to do. Steaming with those local herbs, they do it a lot.
Sure. The health ministry has also gone ahead to say that for now, Tanzania has no intention of importing any of the vaccines being reported in other countries until they have certified that they're clinically proven to be safe. So now they're following exactly what the president has asked them to do just over a week ago. 6 months ago, he said that Tanzania is corona-free. He ordered a full recovering of borders and other economic activities. So they're going on with business, and they're saying that we can tackle this thing should it come along. We'll see. But Tanzania's official numbers of COVID-19 still remain at 509.
You know, the problem arises with herbal remedies, and this is what those in the medical science field complain about. It is not that they do not work. It is that you do not know the contraindicative nature of it. You know it helps, but what else does it do? See? Now, these are people who argue that when you follow what they consider to be laid down scientific procedures, then you arrive at that better knowledge. But again, you see, the counter-argument to that is some of these herbal remedies have been used for the longest time, long before what we call medical science became what it is. And it worked. And the good that the remedies did outstripped any harm that one can actually speak of. So that in itself, one could argue, is evidence that these things actually do work. Yes. And then there's the other argument that when you subject it to pharmaceutical processes, then that very process also, in as much as you're talking about purifying and making it better, you may also introduce harm.
Impurities and
that previously did not exist. Yes.
To that. I think it's a balanced debate, that one, on the efficacies of herbal medicine. Those that have studied this in this field and those that have gone into the scientific medicine, there is always a clash. There's that constant clash on who should be listened to, or who occupies the head of the table.
Actually, it's interesting. If you look at the Kenya Medical Research Institute, they have a center for clinical research, but they also have a center for traditional medical research. Yes, meaning they take it seriously.
It's recognized.
Oh, yes, they do.
It is recognized.
It's a center that deals with nothing but that.
Yeah. Yes. And if you look at then also the statistics that you were giving us the other day, CT, on the number of, was it you? Yes, it was you. On the number of, the percentage of people who seek these services vis-a-vis those who go to medical facilities.
There are more.
There are more. So
not just more, they're infinitely more.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, well, anyway. So we're seeing that's what we're seeing coming out of Tanzania. Rwanda, the partial lockdown of Kigali and the schools shut down.
Still continues. So it's a full lockdown actually in Kigali. Let's say this. There is children not going to school in Kigali only, and then a partial lockdown of the city. However, they're talking about this translating to other parts of the country should they see a rise in cases. We still have not seen a rise in cases. It's interesting though, and just going back to that we talked about yesterday and on Friday, is that they are still being, the eye is on them in terms of what's going on with the strain, especially from the UK. However, if we look at what's happening in the world, Rwanda has been ranked 6th globally in COVID-19 management, as in they've done so well with the management of this virus in the country. So you want to ask yourself, then why the ban on them, for example, for citizens not to be able to travel to the UK? And so again, it just shows that there could be something dodgy going on here. There could be an underlying reason as to why this ban has been placed, because the management of COVID in Rwanda, according to this, is much better than the management of COVID in the UK. So, just still keeping an eye on this and seeing.
Don't rule out
exactly what's going
just turmoil within the ruling party in the UK. They are not having an easy time of it. Remember, their pulling away from the European Union is also having its consequences. And then there's the issue and the consequences that are arising right now are just the relations they have with their neighbors. You talk about Ireland, you talk about Scotland, you talk about Wales, okay? Because when they were in the EU, it involved all these neighbors of theirs. So now, suddenly, you have a situation where you want to resume business as usual, and business cannot be as usual for the simple reason that the usual for the longest time has been with you being in the UK.
Right.
So how then do you function? How then do you get your ducks in a row with this situation that you find yourself in? So when people have many unresolved issues just within their borders, rest assured that you can expect that there'll be a lashing out and there'll be some difficult to explain maneuvers that they're making, and it all has to do with just them trying to deal. And then amidst all this, COVID
comes in.
new strain, okay? Throw it to South Africa as the origin of it. Doesn't matter. It's in the UK.
It's still there.
UK scientists are telling you, we first notice it here. Now,
Yeah.
okay. Remember, WHO, as we speak right now, have an entire body of people in China, Wuhan no less, trying to figure out whether indeed, as it has been anecdotally assumed, that COVID actually did originate from China.
Yeah.
Yes, they've even visited the hospital where it was first documented and it was first stated. So, if with COVID, if with China, it's taken the WHO to arrive at the conclusion that they actually need to find this and be definitive about it, how can a statement just be made that this thing originated in South Africa and we're supposed to believe
Just
it?
like that.
Just like that. We
yes.
want to throw it somewhere else.
And then we are supposed to just believe it.
16 minutes after 6. Let's take a break at this point, see how the weather looks like around the world, and then we will look at the headlines in the newspapers. We want to find out wherever you are this morning. Tuned in through our social media platforms where we are live streaming Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or our website www.spicefm.co.ke.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing. As much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, this Tuesday morning, we're
The
looking at air
weather
conditions
with
in Nairobi.
Spice FM.
At 15 degrees at the moment, that looks like it will be the lowest for today, going to highs of 28. Nyeri this morning is clear at 9 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 12. Mostly clear conditions in Nakuru at 12, that'll be the low as well, going to highs of 28. Similar weather in Eldoret, where it's 12 degrees and clear, highs of 27 today. Clear skies in Kisumu at 22, with highs of 32 and lows of 21. It's clear in Kakamega at 22, highs of 32 and lows of 15. 24 at the moment in Mombasa. Highs of 33 and lows of 24 today. It's mostly clear in Malindi at 25. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 25. Clear conditions also in Kampala at 20. Highs will be 28 and lows of 18. We're looking at clear conditions in Dar es Salaam. Highs of 32 and lows of 25. The high will be 16 today in Joburg. It is quite cold, at least for Joburg standards. Rain showers already started this morning and temperatures are clocking in at 13. It's also light rains in Lagos at 28. Highs of 33 and lows of 25. Kinshasa is raining this morning at 25, likely to go through most of today. Highs of 32 and lows of 23. Taking a look into Beijing, it's -2 and sunny. 2 will be the high and lows of -11. It's raining this morning and likelihood of flooding in Paris at 8 degrees. We'll see highs of 14 and lows of 10. Rain showers in London at 5, highs of 13 and lows of 3. It's raining and snowing in New York on Monday night at 1 degree. That'll be the highest for today. The lowest will be flat on 0. Take a look at other countries in a while.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, so the weather in that place in southern Russia called Yakutsk, the city in Sakha Republic, Russia, is currently at -41. Not so bad. It's only -41.
You know, I have difficulties dealing with even 5.
Imagine.
5, I. Then you're now talking about minus. 0, I can't contemplate. Minus. Anyway.
40 minus 41. You can imagine how hot plus 40 is now. How cold must minus 41 be? Hey, anyway, everybody seems to be online this morning. Waterman Jeffrey, good morning from Minneapolis. Well tuned. Prince Kofi, good show from Ghana. Karibu sana. Prince Dagi Oguta says, good morning. Do Eric and Dr. Muga listening to the show very well this morning. I'm now well tuned in already from Nyabola Nyakach. Samia Moni, good morning. The room watching from Mombasa. Jose Maina Ndohio, good morning. Why is Jose Maina tuned in from Italy Ndogo? This is Malindi. Now part loud and clear. Say hello to our ambassador, Madam Naomi Campbell. Calvin Joroge, good morning and tuned. Okeo Yaye, good morning, Spice FM, tuned in from Rongo University. Robert Mbogo is tuned in from Kwale County. Moses Gashari just tuned in from, that's where, Juja. Yes, Moses is in Juja. Ondicho, morning, tuned in from Kwamtusi Mwingi. Lawrence Karia. Where are you today, Lawrence? Lawrence today is in Embu. Cyprian Mora is tuning in from Nakuru. Charity Maina is in Nakuru as well. Honorable Reagan Hanskel Nyandiga is Mheshimiwa. Anasema tu, kindly mwalimu train Mheshimiwa Osoro. Karate. Kapedo is listening. Mheshimiwa Osoro needs one or two lessons.
And it's City, who knows?
Yes.
You know, it's actually interesting that when you watch Kung Fu movies, you seem to believe that the amount of noise you make is directly commensurate with the actual art of whether it's jiu-jitsu or karate or whatever else.
Yes. So talk about Fristo Edwin and Saharan Wafula.
Saharan Wafula says,
Yeah.
Where? Yes, he says, good morning, my good people. Kisumu was tuned into the biggest show in the country. Let the conversation continue.
Right.
Edwin Washira, he's tuned in from the CBD this morning, and he says that he wants a business proverb from UCT.
A business proverb?
Yes. If an employer frowns at the sight of the payroll, then he or she needs to rethink the business opportunities.
Indeed.
Faristo Muganda is tuned in from Ebubere in Mumuya. Says Nikondani Mpango. Shiragi Moya is on the train this morning. Actually, he's ready to board the train. The Royal Eagle. He says, good morning, the Pan-Africanist, our Mwalimu and our Reverend. Oh, reminds me of that joke of a rabbi, a Jew, and a Catholic walking to a bar. The Pan-Africanist, the Mwalimu, and the Reverend walk into a bar. Okay,
Right.
anyway.
Walk into the room.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning and welcome, everybody. So, City, what is today's proverb?
Right. Now that you have asked, I will read today's proverb.
Is it a business one?
You can consider this one is it's broad-based.
Those who sold in cash and those who sold in debt. Remember that?
I remember that lovely stuff.
The
Okay.
shops.
Okay. This one is along similar lines. Okay. But I want to give our sisters a little credit this morning.
Oh,
Okay?
yay.
Yes. When a woman goes on a secret trip, she gathers firewood and returns home.
Is firewood imagery here?
When a woman goes on a secret trip, she gathers firewood and returns home.
Anaokota kuni.
Okay.
Anarudi nyumbani.
Nakuni.
Na kuni kama ameokota. Haya. I don't get this proverb, but well, we will get there. So let's look at the headlines. City, start. The gentleman.
There seems to be one headline that has dominated every paper that we have in the country. That is the passing away of former minister, former head of the civil service, one Simeon Nyachai. Yes. That is what has dominated the news today.
Yeah.
And there's been an outpouring of condolence messages from all walks of life in the country and from every corner of the country. Every. And when I say every, I mean every. Which tells you that the many years that the gentleman spent in the civil service and in politics, he knew many people, made friends, and when you're that powerful, you also make enemies.
Yep.
But in true African tradition, when someone passes away, all that is forgotten, or at least the impression is given that it is all forgotten, and everybody talks peace. Yes.
Bid him farewell.
Everyone. It's pages upon pages upon pages.
Lived a full life, man. 89.
No, life doesn't get fuller than that. It's a very, very full life, and a very active one at that.
Very active one. Rising in the ranks of the civil service, getting to a point where he was chief minister in the Moi administration, and this one that you like repeating often. The point when he was minister for finance in the Moi administration, and then what did he do?
He informed the country that we were broke. Something that was unheard of and unprecedented, and something which had grave consequences for him. But he was never known to be a man who did not shoot from the hips. No. If there's one thing he was known for, the man spoke his mind.
Completely.
And when you speak your mind, my friend, you'll gather as many friends as you gather foes. But there are those who argue you'll gather even more foes. Because when you're in public life when you're in politics, people expect you to tone down and to say things which are placatory and things which people consider to be soothing. This was not the late Mr. Nyachai's strong point. No.
He just spoke.
Yes, and if he was your friend, he was your friend. If you didn't get along with him, then indeed you also did not get along with him.
And you knew where you lie.
You see, that's what you call clarity. Yes. Ambiguity did not follow this man.
So this is a man who at one time vied to be Kenya's president.
He did.
Right?
He did.
Was leader of a political party called Ford People. In the 2002 elections, he broke away from the ranks and basically just decided, you know what? Initially, he was working together with the people who had taken off from KANU. And there was talk at that time that he may be the also compromise candidate, or he may get something out of this. In fact, rumor says that at some point he believed that he would be the one who is called as Nyachai Tosha.
You know,
and that moment when Raila stood in that meeting and I said, you know what, we've agreed, so let's move on. Nyachai was already gone.
You know, one of the things about politics and political discourse and political memories, there is a consistency in the vagueness with which memories are actually applied. You can find a situation being described by two individuals who are both present at that particular point in time. And when you listen to the description, it would be difficult to actually believe that they were actually at that same place at the same time and they witnessed the same thing. Okay? The only thing that I can say is that when you are as powerful as the late Sim Nyachai was, and you are considered to be the supreme leader of your community, remember, his father, the late chief, in fact, he was paramount chief, Nyandusi. It means that this was a person who was chief of essentially all the Abagusi. That's what it means. When you're paramount, you're the chief of everybody. Okay? And even the senior chiefs in those olden days, you were chief of an area that covered what we call a district. Yes. You actually are really a fairly powerful person. And that is why you even had a police force that was created to serve you. That's where the APs came from, the administration police. But what is certain is this. When you have you're such a powerful person, such a strong person, then you find that the hopes and aspirations of the people, the populace from whence you originated, their hopes lie with you. And then the significance of other leaders who may be there is actually overshadowed by you. Okay? One of the most prominent sons of that same region, and for the long time, was Dr. Nyonka. He was extremely well known. He was also popular. And he's a man who, up until the time he died, had never actually even lost an election. But if you look at Sim Nyachai, a time did come when he actually did lose an election. Now, these shock elections, if you ask me, what they tell you is not that the man is not popular. No. It's just that it's a generational change. There are people who will know the name, but they cannot have any direct relation with what the man may have done. And our people are very strong on this, what the person has done for you. If you come from central Kenya, the narrative of having fought for Mau Mau was a very strong card to play in elections. And you would get elected simply because of your participation.
Yeah.
A time came, again, that generational change when it didn't matter. No. People couldn't relate to the issues of Mau Mau, and whatever role you had played was not as significant as it had been in previous years. So sometimes when you talk about politics and then you understand the need for it, there are those who argue that it is perhaps prudent that when you've been a successful civil servant, don't enter the political field. Because one equally successful civil servant was one Charles Njonjo. Charles Njonjo is still alive as we speak. Long-serving Attorney General, became a Minister for Constitutional Affairs and Justice, then entered politics. And as we say, the rest is history. A lot of what followed, he got mired into the dust of our Kenyan politics, as did the now immediately late Simeon Nyachai. And our politics has that capacity for almost eroding anything positive that someone has ever done.
So it's possible then that politics would come in to kind of snuff out your
achievements.
It
does snuff out.
That would otherwise be recognized as
it
something
does.
quite...
Not can. It does snuff out. It does. It does.
That's interesting. It's very interesting.
Okay. 6:30. So let's see what's happening on the roads this morning. It's a lovely Tuesday morning, but are the roads as lovely this morning? Let's find out. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique, the official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. Traffic.
Okay, let's put this out there already. Let's try and have a safe day, shall we? Too many accidents that happened yesterday, especially on Thika Road. Let's take a look there and see what's happening now. It looks like it's already moving quite slowly. Kiambu Road has already packed up, and still memories from that terrible accident that took place yesterday. So let's get into it. Mombasa Road is quite slow this morning already. Getting into the city is going to take some time. The stretch from Muthaiga Isle Pumwani used to be peaceful, but now there are buses all over and the traffic is slowing down quite some. Bellevue already slow all the way from Airtel Center and moving in that direction very slow as you try to then approach Capital Center and then out towards Uhu Highway at the Nyeri roundabout. So we already see that moving very, very slowly this morning. At the Pangani underpass this morning also is starting to clog up already. So we're looking at what could be another crazy Tuesday. But we're going to have to wait and see how it opens up around about 7 o'clock. Folks already out and moving. Tell us if you get stuck somewhere. This Eastern Southern Red Hill bypasses can be used. Not a problem right now. Hopefully they don't clog up some and keep traffic moving. Talk to us. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Some other headlines.
Okay, so we're going to come to this chaos in Kisii story later. But just giving a little bit about it is that MPs Simba Arati and Sylvanus Soro fight at a burial attended by DP Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga. It's quite embarrassing, but let's look at the details of it, shall we? So yesterday, folks attended a funeral, and what should have been a goodbye to somebody who lost their life, it turned out to be a fight, unfortunately. Trouble started when South Mugirango MP took to the podium to confront Arati after he told Ruto to apologize over the 2007 post-election violence. This is on page 10 of The Standard. MPs allied to Deputy President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga exchanged blows, literally, at a burial attended by two leaders. Yesterday, Ruto and Raila, who were sharing a podium for the first time this year during during the burial of Abel Gongera, the father to Kisii Deputy Governor Joash Maangi, watched as their allies exchanged blows. Tempers flared over succession politics, the Building Bridges initiative, and fight against graft. Security personnel and aides of the two leaders surrounded them as their supporters clashed before South Mugirango MP Sylvanus Osoro was floored. Trouble started when Osoro took to the podium to confront Dagoretti North MP Simba Arati after he told Ruto to apologize over the 2007 political violence. Arati dismissed the dynasty versus hustler narrative, saying it was not time for another community to be ruled. It was time another community ruled the country. All right. He also defended President Uhuru Kenyatta's promise of 2 million shillings car grant for MCAs, saying MPs get 7 million, so 2 million is all right for us. He claimed that the DP was surrounded by corrupt leaders who were defrauding Kenyans. And I quote, "We have several leaders here in the company of our deputy president who have a tainted life. These were fraudsters who should not be allowed to take up any leadership position." Osoro spoke before the Dagoretti North MP said the referendum bill did not consider views presented by the Gusii communities. It just became a whole mess. Everybody now started throwing blows. People were flawed. Others, said things that were not very palatable. But all right, this is what happened yesterday. And unfortunately, the gentleman who had gone to be buried was forgotten.
If you want to understand the consequences of making politics the central issue of discussion in everything that we do, this is but the beginning.
Yep.
This is but the beginning.
It was not a good showing at all. It was not a good showing at all.
I'll reserve my comments for now. But what I'll say is we as Kenyans need to take back our country.
Okay. So let me just
as
take
the non-politicians. Okay.
Let's take the ice off that a little bit, all right? And let's go to the story. Relief for Mwilu as court reverses orders barring her from office. We talked about this yesterday, and no sooner than Acting Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu yesterday obtained temporary relief from the High Court in Meru, set aside orders barring her from discharging her duties owing to an unresolved disciplinary case. The High Court moved to forestall a crisis in the judiciary. This is the reason why. By lifting an order that had been issued by the same court last Friday, which prohibited Mwilu from discharging her duties as a Deputy Chief Justice, Judge of the Supreme Court, and member of the Judicial Service Commission. 3 days ago, Meru High Court Judge Patrick Otieno had issued the orders compelling the DCJ to step aside. Now, the new orders mean that Justice Mwilu will continue to serve in her role as the Acting Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court. So, the reason why we're being given is that they are forestalling a crisis in the judiciary. The Supreme Court would not be able to meet because they did not have the minimum numbers.
These are judicial musical chairs. Because if you look at everything that's happening here, one judge says this, another one says the other. Another one says this, another one says the other.
Yeah.
And then another one bites the dust.
Oh.
Okay. So Mwilu is back. Okay, and she will continue acting. Nesawa. It does not remove the fact that, she got a sword over her head. And it's important that we get somebody clearing the judiciary of this kind of dirty waters. Yes. The Law Society of Kenya had gone to court wanting to block IEBC from submitting the BBI bill to the 47 counties. What now happened is that the court said absolutely no way. This is what Justice Jairus Nga said. The prayer for the court to suspend the letter issued by the IEBC chairman transmitting the BBI bill to counties is declined. The petitioner is, however, granted permission to challenge the process of transmitting the bill to the counties. So they've been told, okay, you can go ahead with this with this suit, challenging the process of transmitting this, but we are not going to stop the IEBC for now. Now, through their lawyer, Omwanza Ombati, the LSK wanted the BBI process stopped arguing that the Electoral Commission rushed to transmit the bill to the 47 counties before verifying all the signatures collected to support the constitutional amendment endeavor. According to their lawyer, the IEBC had on the 21st of January informed the public that they would take 2 weeks to verify signatures, only for the exercise to be cut short with the announcement that the commission had verified enough signatures. So basically they're saying, you told us you'll take 2 weeks. Now, before 2 weeks are over, you're already taking this thing to the counties. Hey, court, stop it. Now the court told them, okay, I can't stop it, but you can go ahead with this petition. At the same time, NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua is leading an initiative called Linda Katiba, where they are vowing to oppose any move to amend the 2010 constitution. When they were unveiling a website yesterday, which Kenyans could sign in to reject the constitutional amendment drive, Martha Karua called for the full implementation of the constitution, saying it's a good document, it doesn't need adjustments. She's faulting the leaders for failing to implement the supreme law and actualizing the aspirations of Kenyans. We know about this Linda Katiba initiative. We have heard from various people who have been speaking about this. Among them, activist Cherotich Sei, political analyst Daisy Mjani. We also know about the ones who had gone to court. Economist David D. saying the BBI is ill-timed. This is not the time to amend the constitution. So basically, the no camp is already galvanizing. Yep. So the civil society organizations have come together in the no camp. We know their supporters. This include NARC Kenya's Martha Karua. It includes Governor Kivutha Kibwana. It includes civil society organizations, including Wanjiru Gikonyo of TISA, Cherotich Sei, Daisy Amdani, and others. Kinyang'anyiro, mpira uko katikati ya uwanja. Wakati wowote sasa, referee atapuliza kipenga.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So, traveling out of the country, you may soon need a vaccine passport.
Okay.
So if you have plans to travel, this is something that we're going to look at. The details now coming out is that Kenyans traveling abroad may soon face new forms of restrictions as calls for the introduction of the COVID-19 vaccine passport become louder. Even before vaccines get into the country and the passport may become a the passport may become a requirement to land in some airports, especially in Europe and the US. In Europe, for example, the European Union Commission is under pressure to introduce the passport for its 27 member states so that their citizens may move freely within the bloc. Countries such as Greece were already following or allowing visitors to enter without restrictions if they have a COVID-19 vaccine certificate. Yes, I do believe that certification of vaccinations status might increasingly become important for international travel, and this will heavily favor high-income countries, and will make it challenging for Africans to travel. This is according to Professor Madhukar Pai, the chairperson of the Canada Research in Epidemiology and Global Health. So even without COVID-19, there are many challenges for Africans to get visas for countries in North America and Europe. I now worry that this need for a vaccination will be an additional barrier. The World Health Organization had introduced an international travel document known as the Yellow Card in the 1960s amid yellow fever epidemics. To resume activities like tourism, international and technology companies have begun dry runs for smartphone applications that will be used as evidence of whether a traveler has been vaccinated against the coronavirus. So it's looking at having this as a requirement to travel added to the restrictions. It's something that folks probably need to wrap their heads around, especially if you're going to be engaged in any kind of international travel.
Wow. Okay. We'll be ready for that. There's the editorial in today's Standard which catches my attention. And it's calling on the Kenya Bureau of Standards to check on the quality of salt in the market. Why? Because a study conducted by the University of Queensland, Australia, and the Federal University of Technology in Nigeria shows that we have a lot of plastic in our salt. Right? Some good amount of microplastics found in table salt. This has been found in a study. And so they're saying it could also be affecting seafood, which still finds its way on our tables. While this is the first time the study is confirming the presence of plastic in the table salt used in Kenya, it should come as an eye-opener on how we should dispose of plastics and also take care of the environment. Now, we'll be talking about disposal in the next hour with Dr. Bimal Kantaria, but this is one of the things that you're talking about. So, Salt is harvested, especially the salt that's harvested along the coastline. All right, so plastics dumped into the ocean, plastics consumed by fish, plastic breaks down into small microparticles, plastic finds its way into the ground, plastic is harvested as part of salt, plastic finds its way into salt, finds its way on your table as table salt. Concern.
So essentially what you're saying is that instead of consuming table salt, we are consuming table plastic.
Yep.
Yeah. With the taste of
good.
salt.
Yep. With a taste of salt, with a tinge of salt.
If you can have a situation where fish harvested from one particular lake, Lake Naivasha, you are informed categorically that they are unfit for human consumption because of our negligence and because of the nonsense that we like getting into, of pouring all the affluents into and waste into the lake, then yes, that is also possible.
Imagine.
Yes, it is possible.
Imagine. So I think it's important that now KEBS takes this up seriously and also comes up with its own report, its own findings, and its own advisory. What is happening to our salt? Is our salt safe for consumption? If not, let us know. Alafu mtuambie tutatoa wapi chumbi.
Would be the question, right?
Sasa mnataka tufanye nini? You know, those are the questions that we ask. Sasa mnataka tufanye nini? Let's take a break again at this point. 14 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is the Situation Room. Keep it right here. We're looking at more and more headlines in the papers. And then in the next hour, we'll have a conversation about Agri-Talk in the Situation Room. Today, focusing on what businesses are doing to advance clean agriculture. Good morning.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
Right.
Spice FM.
How we doing?
More misery for taxpayers as 7.2 trillion debt to double in 2030.
Okay. So we have a Vision 2030 on taxation.
Yes. According to the Parliamentary Budget Office report, the 7.2 trillion debt is likely to double in the year.
In 10 years.
It's actually 9 years from now. It's bound to double. And of interest is this. You see, this 7.8 trillion, it accounts for approximately 69% of our gross domestic product, GDP, and 87% of the total debt ceiling. Okay? Now, when we get to 2030, it'll exceed the 100%. Now, if I'm to go by what economists and those who understand this subject well say, that is really never the issue. Because developed countries, there are many who are above 100%. Their debt is more than 100% of their GDP. Some are even at 200% of their GDP. However, the economies are strong enough, and this is something that they are able to accommodate. Our fundamental problem has not been the debt. It only seems to be the debt because we keep increasing the debt, but there's no commensurate development that accompanies it, whether it is in industry, whether it's in commerce, whether it's in the well-being, the social well-being of the citizenry. The social well-being is accompanied by increased misery. The economy is on a downward trajectory. Our industry, again, is on a downward trajectory. So the question that is often asked is, even as you borrow this money, or as the money is borrowed on our behalf. I said on our behalf because we're the ones who pay for it. Where really does this money actually go? So that question still. Yes.
So it's likely to double.
Yep.
In just a few years' time.
9 years' time.
Okay. It has risen from how much? By the time President Mwai Kibaki was living, he had borrowed 1.7 trillion shillings in his 10 years in office.
Yes.
The 8 years so far in office of President Uhuru Kenyatta, they've borrowed 5.2 trillion. 3.2 trillion.
5.3 trillion.
5.3 trillion.
Yes.
All right.
In Moi's time, it was only 629 billion that had been borrowed.
In 24 years.
Yep.
Okay.
They're doing well.
So we can then see the next president should
The
up
stage has been
up the
set.
ante.
Actually, if you want to actually break it down and look at the people who were at the helm of that particular ministry and what it is they borrowed, it is also not difficult. When Chris Okemo was then Minister for Finance, the total that was borrowed during his time was 100.9 billion. Then there was Christopher Bure, 23.2 billion in total. The length of time Chris Okemo was minister was 21 months. Chris Obure was 12 months. Then David Muiraria, 38 months, 112.7 billion. Then there was Amos Kimunya, 24 months, 117 billion total. Then there was John Michuki, just 10 months, 111 billion. Then there was Uhuru Kenyatta. He was there for 37 months, 529.2 billion. So it looks like this huge amount follow this particular gentleman. And then there was Njeru Gidai. Yes, he also made a sterling effort, 367 billion. Then the real effort now came in the time of Henry Rotich, 74 months in that office, 4.1 trillion.
Okay.
Wow.
I think if we go by that, then Ukur Yatani is set to break this record. In 15 months in office, 1.7 trillion.
He's doing okay.
Borrowing 2.6 billion shillings daily.
He's doing okay.
He's doing well.
He's doing
He's
okay.
doing well. Huh?
If this was a competition and you're trying to determine who can borrow the most, he's actually doing okay. Yes. And it looks like he's set to win the race.
This is... okay. There's a very sad story in page 14 of The Nation today. This talks about a woman. Her name is Sarah Nafula. So Sarah Nafula was seeing this gentleman, and they had had a relationship that was 7 years old, okay? It was going through the turmoil of relationships here, there, and they would disagree on a number of issues. So this one time, it is alleged, and it's reported here, that the gentleman asked Sarah Nafula to come and join him at his Naivasha house. On December 9th, 2020, she got this call. She trusted this man. She decided, okay, let me go. The following morning, her body was found. Not her body. Parts of her body were found. So, here is how the story goes. Apparently, they'd been having issues in their relationship here and there, and the man was feeling like, the lady is basically just too much, and he's unable to deal with her, and blah 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 blah. So when he invited her to come and visit, he had already talked to a friend of his, and this friend of his was like, come on, why are you disturbed by something so simple? Just give me 15,000 shillings. I show you what to do. 15, geez, yeah, okay. He gave the friend 4,000 shillings, 5,000 shillings, allegedly. It was a plot. When the woman got to the man's house, the friend was waiting. The friend, according to this man, the friend committed the heinous act of killing this woman and chopping off her body into different parts, and went to various parts of Naivasha, throwing off bits of the body. So the mother, after some time, noticed, hey, where is my daughter? And she went to the police and told the police, guys, I don't trust this man. Ask this man. The man is like, I don't know. The mother is like, please arrest this man and question him. Police are like, we have no grounds to arrest the gentleman, but let's continue the investigation. So it emerged that the mother was actually right. Her intuition was telling her something has gone wrong when they started now discovering the dismembered parts of her daughter's body. They have found several parts, and some parts are still missing. Woman's head and torso were found in a manhole. The search for the remaining body parts continues. We are talking about a story. This visit was on December 9th, 2020. We are still talking about, to date, some body parts have not been found. What is happening?
What is also sad about this story was the boyfriend claimed that Nafula had stolen 68,000 shillings that he had kept in the house. And she denied ever seeing this. What concerns me, and really, really concerns me, is that this is a trend. How many times have we discussed in this very, very same studio a tiff between lovers as is reported, it ends in death. And it is a horrible, and you can just picture horrible, painful death. And you're wondering, what sort of disagreement took place for someone to get to the point where they feel that this is how they needed to end it? That report that Dr. Njenga and his team were required to put forward, in as much as they said that, yes, indeed, the problems we had were not just of a serious nature, but they were of an extremely serious nature. That statement is inadequate. It's inadequate because I think the mandate for writing a report is to find out what needs to be done and to present it. But surely, if it's in the purview of people who have at least studied that particular field of endeavor and understand the human mind and what it is that makes it tick, it should go beyond just presenting a report. There needs to be a little more activity, a little pushing, a little lobbying, making sure that this... Because every day when we discuss human relations and aspects of human relations in this show, there's always some story that you read about where something seems to have gone wrong. And it's not isolated. Whether it is issues in schools, whether it's in domestic setups, whether it is in family, it doesn't really matter where it is. It's the same thing. It's just being manifested in a different arena, but it's the same thing.
It's on the up and up.
It is on the up and up.
It is.
So here is, one person killing a lover and chopping off a body. Another one, a person killing his lover and burning the house. Another one, a person killing her lover by stabbing him several times. And
then you have a son who goes and murders his family.
Yes.
I mean, surely, what do we need to see happening before?
And another one who murders his 100-year-old father.
Yes.
So,
yes. Because of piece of land.
Across the board.
Nitaua mtu.
Yeah.
Mtu atakufa. The next thing, you have killed your own father.
Yeah.
And the man is 100 years old. You are 70. Surely.
There's something going on, guys.
Aye.
There's something wrong.
Aye.
There's something wrong. Which
All is not well in the state of
Denmark.
They were told, declare this thing a national disaster, and they haven't. And you wonder why.
Are they waiting for us to decimate each other?
Or for one of them, if it affects them closely.
Well, what that means is that there'll be nobody to rule over.
It's unfortunate. Is Gaza unfortunate?
Okay, so just looking at a last story here, quickly internationally, we will see that the army is taking control of Myanmar. We saw that yesterday. Military drafted the constitution in 2008 and retains power under the charter at the expense of the democratic civilian rule. This is a story that's reported by the Associated Press. Myanmar's military has taken control of the country under a 1-year state of emergency. So they've instituted a state of emergency, and this state will last for a year. And reports say that state councillor, which was her position, Aung San Suu Kyi, and other government leaders have been detained. We know, from other reports yesterday, that all communication except for state-owned communication by the end of yesterday had been shut down. The internet was a bit iffy in terms of what would happen, except for state-owned companies. Everything else was not going to happen. The problem with that they're citing is that there was allegedly some election fraud in November. Suu Kyi's party had captured 396 out of 476 seats in the combined lower and upper houses. The State Union Election Commission has confirmed that result. However, the military, shortly after the election, claimed that there were millions of irregularities in voter lists in 314 townships, and this has resulted in the displeasure that they have now since expressed by taking over in terms of what was essentially a military coup yesterday. So this is going to remain this way for some time. They have not been released, and we don't know how long they will be held.
Aung San Suu Kyi, though, she hasn't turned out to be what she was campaigning to be.
No. her character, her character as is seen now is kind of different from what she said.
Yeah. And this is what happens to revolutionaries such as herself. I mean, you paint a picture, this is the kind of person I'd like to be, this is how I'd like to see a country run, and then you get to that point where everybody rallies behind you, you get to that position, and then people are like, huh? What happened?
Who are you?
Keep it right here, though, for more conversations. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Let's look at what's going on with traffic this morning. We already see that it's building up on Mombasa Road, and that's quite some. All the way today from Mlolongo out through to Nyayo Stadium today. Let's look at Kiambu Road also, where there's a gridlock stretching all the way to Risky River, and that's quite far out if you know where we're talking about, not being able to get into town as quickly as you'd like it to. So Kiambu Road today, trying to get to the Thika Superhighway, this is one that you're going to have to watch for some time. All right, let's also look at coming out a little bit further on Thika Road, a lot of traffic congestion from Githurai as you approach Roysambu, and that's going to take some time to get out of as well. So it looks like traffic has already built up some. It looks like another one of those days. Gong Road, not as bad as it was yesterday, moving but very, very slowly. Looking at Langata Road as you approach the Timor roundabout, that also is moving slowly as you get into going towards Bagathi Way or then out towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout. So industrial area, yeesh, let's just say that it's going to take some time to get out of this one as well. It's Tuesday morning. Let's see how we can keep it moving. Talk to us should you get stuck, or even if you find a better route, let us know that as well. Let's keep things moving. Spice of MKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2 minutes after 7. Good morning. Thank you very much for tuning into The Situation Room. This is the second hour of the show. We broadcast the show every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Spice FM. If you're in Nairobi, it's 94.4, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu. Nakuru is 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, and Malindi 97.7. For 2 hours every weekday morning, 7 a.m. to 9, we are also live on KTN Home, and we are live online, streaming on Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and our website, spicefm.co.ke. So, we're now live on KTN Home, and we'd like to say good morning to our audience on KTN Home. Let's talk about agriculture. This is AgriTalk in the Situation Room, where we promote meaningful discourse on agriculture, agribusiness, and food security for the country. So we're going to have a conversation. We talked about, the issue of safety of our food, right? When we talk about food safety, there's that story that's coming out of Lake Nakuru, advised by the authorities that, there's something happening here. There's the report that's come out from the University of Queensland, Australia, and the Federal University of Technology in Nigeria, talking about the quality of salt on Kenyan tables and whether this salt is good. So very many things that now bring in the issue of food security, okay? We're going to have a conversation for the next 25 minutes or so with Dr. Bimal Kantaria. Dr. Bimal Kantaria is the MD of Elgon Kenya Limited, one of the oldest agribusiness and input companies in the country. But also, beyond that, he is the chairman of the Agriculture Sector Network of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. He's the man who's has interacted a lot with farmers, with the markets, with the industry on issues about food. So let's bring him in now and have this conversation with him. Dr. Bimal Kantaria, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much indeed, Eric. Thank you very much.
Now, let's just get straight into it. Agriculture is the backbone of Kenya's economy. We depend so much on agriculture. We have a large part of our country which is not suitable for growing food. Well, it is suitable, but we just talk about it being arid and semi-arid. We also talk about very many challenges that the country faces in terms of rainfall patterns, in terms of now, for example, the recent and continuing visit by locusts that come from neighboring countries on their way to other countries and what they leave behind. We talk about the climate change and the impact that it's having. When you look at all this and then you look and juxtapose that with our quest for food security, where would you say we lie?
So, Eric, I think we need to put agriculture into a little bit of a context. If you imagine agriculture is roughly about 35 to 40% of Kenya's GDP, employs roughly 60% of our total population. 4 out of our top 5 exports are horticulture or floriculture. So it really is a massive part of the Kenyan economy. The problem over the years has been it's always been seen to be an old man's game or something we do in the rural areas. But we just don't realize how incredibly important agriculture is to the Kenyan economy. And to be perfectly honest, in the last 1-2 years, it's been very strong. It's been one of the best performing sectors in the Kenyan economy last year. It was extremely healthy. We had good rainfall. So if you put in a little bit of a perspective, I think we're on the right track with agriculture. So I think if we look at positives, we're on the right track. Of course, there are negatives like everything else. And that I think we will discuss it over the next 20 minutes.
One of the things that comes to mind, Dr. Kantaria, when one says we're on the right track is something very fundamental. We talk about food security, but from a layman's perspective, why is it that despite all the wonderful news that we read and the things we are told, without fail, every single year there is a problem with that very thing, food security. Some part of the country is struck by famine. Some part of the country needs famine relief. Why is this so?
So I want to give you guys a perspective on how the Kenyan agriculture economy is structured. As you know, over the last 20, 30 years, we've been moving up the GDP ladder, if you can imagine, that we're more and more industrialized, more and more coming to the middle-sized economy. So a lot of our produce is now actually not even grown in Kenya. We grow a lot of our produce in the East African region. About 2-3 months ago, we visited both Namanga and Busia borders with the Minister of EAC and the PS, Kevin Kisii. And if you go to these borders, you just can see the amount of agriculture produce being imported from Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia. A lot of these countries now grow onions, tomatoes, you name these kind of cash crops, and they're coming in from the region simply because our economy is now focused more on value addition. So all this raw produce comes into Kenya. Our manufacturers have been amazing. They now process this material into foodstuffs and then they re-export it to the region. So we are not necessarily a grower of our own food, but we are processors of our own food. And I think that's where, as any other normal country would happen, we're going up the food chain in terms of value addition. So you're right, there is ups and downs of the cycle. There are famines, obviously, but I think where we're going in the long term, I think we're going to be very big in agro-processing and exporting. And less growing our own food, but we import our own food, which I think is not necessarily a bad thing. It may, it takes some time to get your head around it, but it's not a bad thing considering that, we're moving forward as a country.
But does it mean, therefore, that even if we move away from it, that the group of individuals we refer to as the common man or the rural farmer, that they cannot actually be self-sufficient in the produce that they have? I mean, surely the two are not exclusively opposed. People can be self-sufficient in the food that they need, but at the same time, there can be food that can be processed. And I'm saying there's a disparity here, that even this basic that we once took for granted, we can no longer take for granted.
Definitely, but I think these are just demographics. And some of these things, I think we've all realized what's happening in the country. If you look at the age group of a typical farmer in Kenya, that you call him the common wananchi, you can see it's getting older and older. The young people just don't want to go in the fields anymore. So we have a slightly labor shortage going on at the moment. We have a land shortage, meaning all the good land. If you just travel, say 20 kilometers outside Nairobi, which previously was all tea and coffee, you can see now it's all estates and housing estates. If you go slightly up into the Naivasha region, it's all floriculture. So just the way the demographics of the industry are progressing, young people are focused more on other things rather than just planting themselves. So we just have to face facts that some of these things have to happen. But I also agree with you, it's not mutually exclusive. We, as a country, we've now gone into more and more. We're going to high-tech farming. If you go some of our massive estates in Narok, you'll just see the technology that is going on with growing of cereals and maize. It's absolutely fascinating, the technology that is now being employed in some of these big farms. Some of the combine harvesters they use in Narok, for instance, are costing $1 million. They're fully on GPS. You don't even need an operator running these machines. So, there's a disparity in what's happening in some types of, farming. There's, of course, the domestic farming, which is the household farming, which will carry on. But even for that, we're bringing in, we talk technology like drip irrigation, we're bringing in new types of seeds as a company. All these kind of things are happening. But this transition is going to take some time, but it's happening. Whether we like it or not, there's going to be a big transition in the next 20 years or 30 years in this country.
Dr. Kantari, it's interesting that you say this because last week we had a chat with the CES Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, Nyaga, and she told us that there actually is a growing interest by the young people in terms of agriculture and farming, growing interest until so much so that they have started to institute projects where they're putting a lot of funding behind young people who then would be interested into going into this as a career. Now, with the information that you have, are we seeing that there could be kind of collaboration between private sector and government to make sure that young people come into this? Because the reasons why previously they've not been engaged in agriculture is because they feel like, okay, it's an old person's, there's not much interest in it, there's not much money in it. But we see that there's rising interest. Is there room for collaboration here?
So Anne Nyaga is a very good friend of mine and a very dear friend of mine. She's one of the dynamic young, politicians we need in this country, and she's been heavily promoting youth in agriculture. So let me put it, she's not necessarily promoting young people go into the farming process, although that's happening quite nicely. And the young people are quite smart. They understand greenhouse technology. They understand using the right seeds and chemicals, and she's been very good at that. But both her and I, we've been promoting youth in the value chain of agriculture. So, for instance, you can have IT in agriculture, or transport in agriculture, or marketing in agriculture. So, what Anne and I have been telling everybody is, agriculture there's plenty of money to be made in agriculture for sure. But you can take different stages at where you are good at. Let's say you're a good salesperson. So you can. I know the word brokers is a dirty word in some parts of this sector, but you can buy and sell produce. You can go to the market. You can do IT in agriculture, and there's been a massive explosion in youngsters coming back to agriculture, but in different fields of agriculture. So you don't necessarily have to be a grower to be in agriculture.
Sure.
And I think what Anne is doing is fantastic.
Okay, so one big problem, I think, is staring all of us in the face, even as these innovations come about, some of the equipment that you talk about, world class, that we can actually use in this country. But one of the things that is huge now is waste, the management of this waste that is essentially coming back into the waters, that is then affecting the output and quality of food that now goes into the market. And we heard, again, from the Ministry of Agriculture that this is going to levels that are actually going to damage the food safety in this country. How can we deal with this? What actually should be done from the beginning?
Yeah, so to be honest, we have got a serious challenge there, and no doubt about that. So if you look at what NEMA did and the president with banning of plastics, of course, that was really the right direction to go as a country. The downside, of course, is that my own company, we were large producers of plastic, and when the ban came, we had to lay off several hundred people, and we lost about 200-300 million in investment. So there's a balance between development and a great environment. You need to find the balance between letting your industry promote itself and let the economy and the environment grow as well. So it's like a sustainable development model, which unfortunately sometimes we can be dragged into one side only, but without realizing that a clean environment costs money, and as a country, are we able to afford a very clean environment at the cost of jobs and growth? So I think we have to find a good medium between environment and industry and growth and employment. But again, it's important the direction we're going in with the president's drive towards cleaning up on plastics. There's a big movement by the Kenya Association Manufacturers as well as KEPSA on PET recycling. We try to make it a circular economy where manufacturers who make PET bottles also collect PET bottles at a price. So we're all part of that initiative as well. So there's a number of big initiatives going on, but it's going to take some time. We have to change our mindsets as a country. At what price is the public willing to pay for a clean environment? And that's a debate your station and people in the private sector need to keep having.
So when you talk about now the role the private sector would play, there's issues like the Sustainable Inclusive Business Initiative, like the Agriculture Sector Network at KEPSA, and what you're doing. If we look at, for example, this particular case coming out of Lake Nakuru, where industrial waste is finding its way into the water, and then that affects the food that we consume, what is it that needs to be done so that we can control the industries better and how they dispose of their waste?
So Lake Nakuru is just a fascinating story. I don't know if you guys know the history of the Rift Valley. Over the last 10 years, the whole water table in the Rift Valley has been increasing. So I think the statistics were interesting. We went from 35 square meters to about 71 square meters. It's actually double the overall, area of water in the area. It's just a natural phenomenon. In 2008, if you remember, there was a plane crash and the plane sort of went into Lake Nakuru. And when the divers went in, helicopter, yeah. So when the divers went in, they suddenly found fish in that Lake Nakuru, and there was never fish in Lake Nakuru. And that's how over the last few years, farmers and sort of fishermen have started moving into Lake Nakuru. But obviously, it's been uncontrolled. So without anybody really realizing what had happened, fishermen were already there. So they went from Lake Baringo, Lake Nevacha, they started feeding into Lake Nakuru, and it became a little bit uncontrolled. So what the government did of this ban, I think it's great, because I think we were all sort of caught unawares of what was happening in Lake Nakuru. And now, obviously, they when they started testing the fish, they found pollution and all that in there. But I don't think that was intentional in any way. It just happens that a lot of the lakes and have broken their banks, the rising water table. So there's a lot of water in the area, and fish have now migrated into Lake Nakuru. So I think there's been a task force that has been set up by the Ministry of Fisheries under Professor Antiba. We're waiting for their results to come out, the reports to come out. But it's just interesting how dynamics of nature can play its part. But you're right. I mean, of course, pollution played a part. But this one in particular was unusual because I think what had happened is many years ago there was I think the Kenya Agriculture Federation had a pollution problem that sort of, because of water rising tables, it sort of swallowed that all up. But I think as a government, the new task force coming out to report, let's see what they say. But obviously, it's going to be an interesting one on how to safeguard the public with fisheries. So let's let the ban stand as far as we're concerned. And let's understand where this fish came from. How is it going to do? How are we going to control it? And is it a sustainable model in the long term?
What do you think the responsibility is of some of these organizations who, just like you said, yours that produces plastic, for example? What is the responsibility of them now when it comes to, number one, protecting the environment, and then at the same time also, contributing to this fight towards food security? We often see it as responsibility of government to clean up, right? But there are organizations who are directly involved in putting it out there, if you would. So what's the responsibility?
It's a good question, and I keep telling you again that it's a national interest. I think we have to realize government can't do everything, and it's you and I and the Joe public who has to get involved and take responsibility as such. You and I sitting in Nairobi, we sometimes don't realize how it's a mindset change. If you drive sometimes on these highways and you see the car in front of you throwing plastic out the window or all that stuff still happens, and we still haven't come around as a country to say, this is our country. We have nowhere else to go. It's up to us to keep it clean. Of course, central government and county governments have to help us with, proper disposal of waste and waste dumping sites and all that. But it's a personal responsibility. So that's why I think government has been focusing largely on the formal sector, on getting them organized, because it's an easier one to tackle. If you look at PET companies, it's quite easy to handle them. NEMA has been very forceful in certain areas. Manufacturers sometimes think a little bit too forceful, and sometimes we sort of struggle with new regulations coming out all the time. Okay, but we accept that as part of having a company or running a factory in this country. It's quite challenging. So I agree. It's everybody and has to take responsibility. But sometimes I feel we have to have a little bit more of a wider campaign, a wider education policy, reaching out to the public in general, not necessarily people in the big cities.
But Dr. Kantaria, the research has been done on our biggest lake, Lake Victoria, regarding pollution. And what the findings were, the one which was perhaps made public in the recent past was one by the University of Nairobi, where you had affluents directly being channeled into the lake. But what is certain and what is universal is that when you have increased human activity around the lake or whichever lake, then you will have activities which relate to humans and the productivity of humans affecting the lake very, very, very directly. Now, you mentioned NEMA. I don't want to bring NEMA into this discussion, but I have to, because they are the ones who are charged with ensuring that whatever industries are put up in such places meet certain required standards to guarantee, the safety of the water in these water bodies, and hence the safety of the human beings who also live and thrive by using this particular natural resource. Now, that clearly does not seem to be taking place, because if we say that there are industries that have increased around Lake Naivasha, around Lake Victoria, they have increased. Human activities have increased around Lake Nakuru. The population living there have also increased. Now, surely there are government bodies whose duty is to ensure that any waste that relates to our activities are controlled. But it is clearly not controlled. That's why we have the problem. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. And there's no doubt about it. We can't even argue on that one. But I think we, as a country, we have to take responsibility. We can't say government or NEMA is the only one who's responsible. I mean, they're individuals. But you can see the growth of our country. Let's look at the flip side. I know you guys you have a direction with this conversation. But I want to look at the flip side. The flip side is I look at it positively, that this country is growing. I mean, if you guys travel a lot, I know. But if you go to Tanzania and Uganda and our neighboring countries, and you come back to Kenya, you think, my goodness, this country is amazing growth. Sometimes obviously what you're talking about, unplanned growth, which I completely agree with you. But the flip side is it's growth. It's good for the country that we're all growing industries, businessmen prospering, farmers prospering. Okay, we need to get some more regulation in place and maybe enforce some of this regulation that NEMA has come out with. The number of cars on the road, I mean, we can say about pollution, but the flip side is it's a good sign for this country. And when you travel in the region that I do a lot, and you come back to Kenya, you think this country is amazing. We've got good entrepreneurs, things are moving, government is responsive to us. And sometimes, legislation lags behind sort of market forces. And that's what we've seen in Lake Nakuru. Businessmen, farmers, fishermen quickly got into Lake Nakuru without, the regulators keeping up. But I think, all right, time will tell and time will, catch up and regulation will catch up. But I look at positively that this country is moving ahead. We need to encourage growth. We need to, of course, sustainable growth. Yep. But let's look at positively, guys.
Thank you very much. And we thank you very much, Dr. Bimal Kantaria, for your positivity and for joining us this morning. Well, it's always encouraging to speak to people in business who are as positive as you are.
And we wish we had talked to him longer. This half an hour is really not long enough.
Yeah.
Just when we're warming up.
Yeah, we have to let you go. Thank you very much, Dr. Bimal Kantaria. He's the MD of Elgon Kenya Limited and chair of the KEPSA Agriculture Sector Network. Asante sana, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Keep it right here. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. This conversation continues. We want to take a break now and take a look at weather and traffic right here on Spice FM and KTN Home and online. We'll be back shortly.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi hii umbo yako iko na pembe.
Hii ni umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, Nairobi this morning, we are looking at partly cloudy conditions. The sun is peeking through those clouds, however. 28 the high and lows of 15 today. In Nakuru, we will see mostly sunny conditions at 12, highs of 28, highs of 25 in Nyeri, mostly sunny at 8 this morning. It's also sunny in Eldoret at 13. It'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 12 today. Sunny conditions in Kisumu will lead to highs of 32 and lows of 21. Sunny and 15 degrees in Kakamega, going to highs of 32 as well. It's going to be sunny in Mombasa throughout most of today, highs of 33 and lows of 24. 31 will be the high in Malindi. 23 at the moment and mostly sunny. Also mostly sunny conditions in Kampala out of Uganda. And 28 the high and lows of 18. Mostly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 24. The highs will be 32 and lows of 25. 16 is the high in Johannesburg, where rain showers rule the morning at 13, and that'll be the low as well. Lagos is clear after the rain this morning at 27, highs of 33 and lows of 25. We're looking at highs of 32 in Kinshasa. It's raining at 24 at the moment.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Traffic situations on Mombasa Road today coming out of the SGR a little bit has eased a little bit right around Mlolongo, but then headed out it is quite packed. Kiambu Road is where you don't want to be this morning. If you're already there, you're going to have to sit through the 6 lanes that are formed now as you try to join the thicker superhighway. That's going to take some time today. Let's look into industrial area. Also moving very, very slowly in and out of the area. Juja Road also is packed. Yes, we know Kiambu is causing tears this morning. Unfortunately, we're going to have to sit through this one. It's a standstill. It's bumper to bumper. Cars on top of cars. And it's taking some time to be able to get out of this one. All right, let's look on Gong Road. It's not too bad. Moving slowly, though, towards the City Mortuary roundabout, out then towards the CBD. Coming out of Westlands, also slow. And so it looks like a jam-packed morning, literally. Spice of MKE, talk to us on Twitter. Text us, 40127. Let's keep it moving this Tuesday morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. In the room, this and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. You have Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, and C.T. Muga. So there's a question online by Sid Otuga who's asking, are we still going to have Raila Odinga on the show? Yes, Sid Otuga, but it's not today. It's actually going to be on Thursday morning, 7 a.m. We'll be having the leader of opposition, Raila Odinga, in the studio with us for a conversation. For now, let's have a conversation about the COVID-19 economic recovery. So the government has a strategy. It's rolled out a strategy. The county governments have rolled out a strategy. There were various organizations that have come together to help the government in rolling out this strategy. One of these organizations that says, all right, so we want to participate in the economic recovery of the country is our friends at Google. So they recently had a conversation, the heads of various business organizations from the USA with our president, Uhuru Kenyatta. And among the people in that meeting was the Google CEO, Sundar Pichai. And he made this, just a like a conversation on the sidelines of this talk. I said, you know what, as Google, we are going to put aside some money to help in the economic recovery of the country in what you're doing. And we are just looking at something in the tune of about $10 million. Yeah, $10 million. That's $1 billion shillings.
$1 billion plus, actually.
Coming into the country from Google to go into various sectors. So let's first of all understand $1 billion shillings. So where is this going? Is it buying PPEs?
Oh, please don't buy PPEs.
Don't buy PPEs.
No, don't buy PPEs.
No, actually, let's start from
Is it financing the referendum?
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. It's been given to the country. Or has it been given to the president so that he can, as it was reported, decide what would be the best use it can be put to? Has it gone straight to the treasury? Or is it sitting in some bank account?
Is it going to have like...
Or is it sitting in the Google bank account in Kenya, waiting, if there is such a thing like a Google bank account, waiting to be disbursed?
So let's bring in the boss herself. Google Country Director for East Africa, Agnes Gadaya, joins us on the line now. Good morning, Agnes.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Lovely to be here again.
Lovely to have you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So you, first of all, I think you can pass our regards to everybody at Google and tell them asante sana for all the good work that you're doing.
But Eric, before you ask this serious question you're about to ask, Agnes, that picture behind you, that painting.
Can I move slightly so you can see it?
Yes, move slightly to your right. Excellent. Take a minute and tell us a little bit about this picture, please. The last time I looked at it, I'm looking at it today. I find it fascinating.
It's wonderful. So I bought this picture from an artist called Wycliffe. I met him at Kuona Trust. And it's a place I like to spend time on Saturday afternoon. It's actually an extremely zen place to be, just walking around and looking at art. And he was working on this piece, and I loved it. And the reason why I loved it is because, as you can see, this is a scene from any of the informal settlements we have. But what I loved about it is the dignity in it. The water looks clean. It's evening. There's lots of movement. There's people. They look like they're coming from work. There's a lady who has just picked her child from school. And so poverty can have dignity. And so that is why I love this picture. Now, working for a multinational like Google, I love having it behind me because all the conversations we have, I remind them why we are doing what we're doing.
That poverty can have dignity.
Yes.
Life must be dignified in all ways. So, Siti, you and Agnes are art connoisseurs, clearly.
I actually love the idea of art and things artistic, but if you're talking about being a connoisseur, having knowledge, my knowledge on a scale of 1 to 10 is probably a half.
Okay, so it's even below the scale. So let's get into the conversation then, Agnes. The recent announcement by Google that there's going to be $1 billion shillings plus that's being passed on from Google to help in Kenya's economic recovery. Just tell us about that. Then we get into asking the questions of what and where the money goes.
Okay. So maybe I can take us a little bit behind because it's a story that continues from when I was last here.
Yep.
So when I was last here, that was in September, and we had just launched our, what we were calling at the time, our post-COVID economic recovery program. At that time, the whole world thought we had finally shaken this thing off. And now we were at a point of rebuilding the economy and moving on. The second wave and everything that is happening right now has told us otherwise. But last time I announced a fund for SMBs where we were going to help SMBs go online. We were also going to work with teachers and educators, and we're going to work with women's groups through our google.org organization. Now, since then, what happened is across Africa, we had targeted 300,000 SMBs to be reached to help them go online, to set up their Google profiles, as well as build for them business sites and provide them an access to market through something called Market Finder. Now, that was an 18-month program. What has happened is the 300,000, the 500,000 that we had targeted, we have already reached over 300,000 in 30% of the time. So we started asking ourselves, so what happens when we outgrow this? Because clearly the need is there.
Yep.
And we need to continue supporting these SMBs. Another thing we did last year is we worked with tech startups, 20 tech startups, and we put them through this accelerator program where we got them mentors, we trained their developers, and we did really good work with them. And then we asked ourselves, okay, we do this year on year. We actually train these startups, they go to market, and a lot of them raise some good capital or good private equity funds to be able to move along. And we asked ourselves, is that a space that we can get into, and what more can we do for them? So Sunda was scheduled to have a meeting with President Kenyatta. It was a bilateral meeting and a fireside chat. An amazing honor to have him here in Kenya. And indeed, everybody he spoke to challenged him now to come and visit physically with his family and enjoy Kenya. And we're really hoping that he takes up that invitation. Now, in that bilateral conversation, one of the things he and his office challenged us is, fine, you've told us all the amazing things that you have done this year. What more can we do to ensure that we continue building these SMBs? So that's where the whole conversation of the $10 million came from. The $10 million is split into three buckets. $3 million as for small business loans. We're channeling these loans through an organization called Kiva.org. Kiva.org specializes in managing micro loans to micro businesses. So not even the small SME as we define them. Because we learned, especially from the granting that we gave through SHOFCO, to the women businesses in Kibera and other communities they work in, that it's great to give them grants, but now once they are on the ground, they actually need additional support, for example, to build their capital. And so we partnered with this organization called Kiva. So this should be going live. And if anybody is interested in those facilities, they should go to the kiva.org website and be able to access the funds from there.
When you say micro, Agnes, what's the level of micro here?
In Kenya shillings, of course.
We're talking about something like $2,000, 200,000 shillings, 500,000 Kenya shillings.
Okay.
So, and what we've done is, of course, these loans are highly subsidized, and who we are targeting is who can't walk into a commercial bank and have that conversation. So what Kiva.org has done, it's a global organization, is they've come with other matrices for determining your creditworthiness.
Okay.
Yes.
So we are basically talking about, let's say, the corner shop, the traders in markets, and such. You run a kinyozi, such businesses.
Yes.
All right. So that's $3 million. That's
$3 million.
Quite a substantial amount. And this is just for Kenyan businesses.
Yes, this is only for Kenyan businesses.
Okay. So tell us about the rest of the money.
So we also have about $5 million for tech startups. So remember I talked about the 20 we trained last year.
Yeah.
But over the years, we have been doing we actually have an existing program where we train tech startups. So what we are doing is a forward integration where we are saying, okay, so we take these startups through training and they come out on the other end. Is there an opportunity for us to then put some money behind them in terms of private equity? So we have a division within Google called Corporate Development. It's the investment arm of Google. And they have given us this $5 million to see if we can put money towards tech startups. Most of the transactions they handle are very, very large, $100 million plus. So this wallet is going to allow us to test the water to see if there's an opportunity for us to actually build a pipeline of tech startups who we can support from the bottom as they come up.
When you say...
So that's another $5 million.
Sorry, Agnes. When you say that Kiva came up with a matrix, a way to determine someone's creditworthiness, can you talk a little bit more about this? What it involves, what they look for?
So we've worked with Kiva for many years as Google, as a partner. So the mechanics of how they determine who gets the facilities, I'm not very aware of. But if anybody goes on the site, they should be able to get all the information they need on how to apply. But we've worked with them successfully globally in quite a number of different markets. And this, we're very fortunate that we're going to work with them for the first time in this market.
Okay.
In terms of longevity of some of these projects, I mean, because we're obviously looking at money that's going towards, small businesses, and then looking at money that's going towards startups. In terms of making sure that these run the course of their lives in business, what else apart from giving money directly to the businesses is happening here, so that we know it's kind of like not a flash in the pan, money coming out, and then making sure that they actually survive the business cycle.
So one of the things when money is given, we commit to outcomes. So each of this money has an earmarked outcome. What are we trying to achieve? And one of the things we do is, even though these monies sound like small wallets, if we are successful with this, we then have a leg to stand on to go back to Google and say, look what we've done with this. It was very well received. We have been able to get the outcomes that we wanted. And through google.org, there's a whole monitoring and evaluation to ensure that the money not only goes where it's supposed to go, but it's spent right, and we're able to measure the outcomes of that. So for us, that the outcomes part is the most important. And then the team here in Kenya can go back to Google and say, look at the difference we made on the ground with what you gave us. Are you able to then unlock more? Yes.
Okay.
Talking about the startups, this $5 million earmarked to support tech startups. When you say tech startups, some people sometimes may just think about, okay, tech startup means that this is somebody who's a developer, coding, and such kind of. Is there an array of what you define as tech startup?
Yes. Why don't I give you an example?
Yes.
Many years ago, one of the first tech startups that came through our accelerator program.
Okay, sorry, I think we've lost Agnes here for a bit. John, let's see if we can get her back here, and then we continue the conversation. So talking about tech startups, talking about 5 million shillings that have been set aside by Google to support tech startups in the country. And she's telling us about this arm in Google called the corporate development, which is like the investment arm. So she's back online. You there now, Agnes?
Yes, I'm here.
Glad to have you. So you were telling us about this particular example of one of the tech startups that came through your accelerator program.
Yes. So a few years ago, one of the tax startups we put through our program was Twiga Foods. So Twiga Foods is not your typical tech startup in terms of having technology for the sake of technology. They had an ambition to transform the lives of farmers through providing them access to markets and using technology as the backbone of how they operate. So there's an application process, and again, it's based on outcomes and what part of the community or what challenges you're trying to solve with the technology you're deploying. So we are unable to, for example, have 100 tech startups trained at the same time because of the amount of resources we actually inject into each one of them. But once they get into the program, we then help them, and that's why we call it an accelerator program, because 70% of everybody who graduates from our accelerator program actually is able to access private equity.
And when you come in at that initial stage, as Google, you're coming in as an investor, and therefore you're taking in some equity?
So when we say we work with tech startups, all we are doing is training them, providing them tools, providing them mentorship, augmenting their developers' skills, and we do not take any equity at that point. So this new $5 million support for tech startups, what we are currently doing is now framing the how. How are we going to consume it? Is it going to be equity or is it going to be debt? And each company needs a different combination of each.
Sure. Agnes, what's in it for Google? I mean, that's the question that sometimes stares down at us. So what is in it for this company? I mean, it sounds nice to say all these wonderful things being done for Kenya and Kenyans. But then how does the company benefit from all of this?
So at this specific point, and I remember you asked me this question last time also. So at this particular point, Google cannot thrive in this environment if the economy is limping. So we have to do our part. So Google has been here for 13 years. We have made lots of different investments in this country. And Google prides itself as being a true country partner. So for right now, things are not going well in Kenya. And we're trying to figure out where can we intervene, where we have skills to intervene, the resources to intervene, to help everybody get back on their feet so that we go back to our business. Yes.
And do you see this as an opportunity to still handhold a lot of people in the environment, even without things like COVID, whereby a company that operates in country like Google, even without an issue as serious as COVID has dealt on the economy, isn't it an opportunity for you to continue as Google to make sure that, you're helping here and there where individuals need help, or companies need help, like in the accelerator program that you do?
So the accelerator program has been running for quite a number of years, and we are proud of it. Now, what we are trying to do is we are trying to say, can we do more than just accelerating them and throwing them back into the market?
Right.
Can we provide support in terms of debt and equity to ensure that they continue to live and thrive? So we are learning a lot of lessons from here that we are going to take forward. So, for example, another thing that we are looking at is we've been training developers in Kenya for very many years. Indeed, 40% of all developers in Kenya have gone through the Google developer curriculum and training and graduated. So one of the questions we're asking ourselves is this sustainable, and how can we scale it? So one of the conversations, for example, that Sundar had with President Kenyatta was around, can we help Kenya develop developer curriculum at the TVET level, where then we're able to scale. So instead of saying we've trained 100 developers this year, if it becomes part of the curriculum in the TVET training colleges, and we are able to ensure its quality and be able to certify it as Google, then we are able to train thousands and thousands of developers and then create a brand new market of developers in Kenya. Because one of the things we released a digital economy report that said we have fewer developers in Africa than we need, than the speed of innovation right now. So those are the conversations we are having. So we are trying to rethink the model for some of the things that we do. And we're trying to say, how do we scale them? How do we make them sustainable so that if tomorrow, I don't know what happened, that those programs would continue to have legs and would have longevity.
Okay, so you told us about so we're talking about a $10 million kind of funding that's coming to Kenya. 3 million shillings going to SMEs, 5 million shillings going to tech startups.
Dollars.
That is
Dollars.
What did I say? Shillings.
Shillings.
$10 million. Yes, $10 million.
1.1
There's
billion.
nothing like $10 million shillings. It's either dollar or shillings. Okay. Yeah.
And they've earmarked $2 million this year towards work with women and children. Now, they haven't started receiving applications for those, and we'll be able to tell you when people can, or organizations that are working in those spaces can put in their applications. But that is already committed for this year, the $2 million.
In how many African countries are you doing this same thing?
So this specific announcement was for Kenya only.
Aha.
Yes.
So this is all our money.
This is all our money.
Okay. That question that City asked, it sounds like, you're just speaking in jest. So where is the money? Is the money coming to the National Treasury and then it's disbursed from there? Is it coming through Google and then now Google sort of managing the finances and managing the entire program? Where is the linkage between what Google government money?
Okay. So the money sits within Google until it's ready for disbursement to the receiving organization. Now, what we've done is we have aligned the priorities of where the money is going to what government priorities are.
Okay.
So, for example, the Ministry of ICT is currently running a tech startup competition for youth.
Mm-hmm.
And what we are going to do is, as we look at our startups who we have trained, we are also going to work with them to see if there are startups within that environment who can benefit from this. When we talk about 3 million for small business loans and our continued work that we are doing to digitize SMEs, one of the key focuses, as the President mentioned many, many times on our call, is that we must find a way to ensure that SMEs survive this.
Right.
So we've taken what are government priorities. We have then aligned them to where we are putting the different wallets of money.
Mm-hmm.
And what we are going to continuously do is report back to government on the impact and the outcomes we have come up with. Another thing even is our SME program.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually working with a number of organizations that fall under Ministry of Industry to ensure that the SMEs they support also get digitized. So there's a lot of alignment and a lot of conversations that take place. So what will happen is the money will move from Google to the ultimate beneficiary.
Okay.
But we will ensure that everything we are doing is aligned with what government wants to do for the economic recovery period.
Thank you very much, Agnes. And thank you for shedding light on how this money is going to be disbursed as well. So if you're an SME and you'd like to apply some of these $3 million in funding to SMEs, just go to kiva.org. That is kiva.org. Am I right, Agnes?
Yes.
So kiva.org, get more information about this and find out and how you can take advantage, because this is money that is available to support businesses at this particular point when businesses are suffering. This cannot have come at a better time. Thank you very much, Agnes. Agnes Gadaya is the Google Country Director for East Africa. Asante sana for speaking to us today. Let's speak to you again in a few days' time. Just to let you know that the Situation Room is a tech startup. So,
and we are also very seriously involved in issues pertaining to women and children.
Yes.
I look forward to receiving your application.
Time for us to take a break on KTN Home. We'll be back shortly. This conversation continues.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
Okay, it's 5 minutes to 8 o'clock. Remember, I've just said, if you're an SME and you'd like to find your way into getting some, kind of good money, they say up to even 500,000 shillings you can get a loan from this organization. Very favorable terms, and they're basically targeting those organizations that would have difficulty accessing money from a bank, for various reasons. So they've come up with their own criteria of how you can access this money. Kiva.org are working with Google on this. Log on there. Let us get our businesses up and running again.
And the interests are really very favorable. Interest rates are very, very favorable. Yes, and even the terms with which you are lent and the follow-up, very favorable.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that this sheds light on the fact that there are always options. There's always something that can be done. And then those who are thinking about, how can we make it better? I mean, you heard what he said. We are not able to operate until the environment is conducive. And so can we participate or contribute to then making the environment conducive? Absolutely. So let's go ahead and do that so that more people can participate, and then the circle of
and
life
can
then
consume
continues.
our products.
Oh, I mean,
because
whichever way.
If you look at the business that Google is in, during this pandemic period, there are some of the few businesses that have not actually felt the downward spiral of business.
Sure, because things took a totally different trajectory, whereby you think that you had to physically see somebody. I mean, look at something like Google Classrooms that kind of revolutionized the way that we did class learning, right? Things like Google Classroom. And then you also saw more and more people had to get to see each other, but not physically, but it still could be created. Businesses that nobody knew about that sprung up as a result of people having lost their jobs, then have an opportunity to make their profile seen and heard. I mean, via some of these tools. So I mean, there it is. You realize and understand that development begets development. If you are not surviving, nobody else is.
Yeah.
So do we want everybody to survive so we can stay afloat? Absolutely. So we do something about it to make sure everybody's now back on the platform. I think it's brilliant. Actually.
The key thing here, like you said, Ndu, is that there are options. There are very many options for businesses on all cadres of businesses. There are options. What is lacking is the information that these options are available and what these options are. And this is where now such organizations as Google would come in, but also this is where the ministry would come in. So the Ministry of ICT, Youth and Innovation comes in, and we should have a platform where you just go in and say, I'm running this kind of business. What available options on funding do I have? What kind of support can I get? Some are not just looking for funding. Some just looking for technical expertise. I just want to understand how I can run my accounts. I want to understand how I can set up for taxation. I want to understand how I can register. Okay, so now there's this whole buzzword in the whole country. There's the beneficial owner, and every organization must go and file in beneficial. Just getting this information out there is very, very important. And for you to know that this is where I can go, it's needed. So Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth, Ministry of Trade and Industrialization, and all these other ministries, this is the kind of place that now we should be having these talks. Yep, because we are here. We can disseminate the information, but we are not the holders of the information.
But also this is an opportunity for these ministries that can be directly associated with this to look good, because they are an opportunity being provided for them to use the muscle they already have, because they will have the data, they'll have the information in conjunction with other ministries and other government departments. So they actually know the sort of individuals that, because it is literally impossible to conduct any business in this country without registering it.
Yep.
It's literally impossible. Yep. So they will know. whether it's a CBO, whatever you want to call it. But the truth of the matter is, an opportunity like this must not be lost. I actually sighed with relief when I heard that the money is actually being kept.
It's sitting in
Yes.
You did, didn't you? Yeah.
I did. I felt goodness, thank goodness. Because if I had been told the money is the government, despair, immediate despair. Because I'll hear a lot of stories and there's absolutely no guarantee that I'll be able to verify the things that I'm being told.
And that is being disbursed on time.
Yes.
So money has come in and it has found some other competing
It always
interests.
does.
Yes,
It always does.
cash in, cash goes somewhere, then there'll be still cash coming out to you. Keep it right here for more conversations in the next hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. It's coming up to 8 o'clock. We are still live on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and we are live streaming the show on our social media platforms. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, so what are we looking
Traffic.
at here? Still some traffic on Mombasa Road as you're trying to get out towards the CBD. It's very, very slow this morning. Also, Kiambu Road still jam-packed. Many lanes where there should be just two. That's not happening either. Pagani Underpass as you then get out. Let's look at a huge parking lot that's happening right around Ridgeways on Thika Road as well. It's going to take some time to get out of this one, guys. So, yes, there is literally traffic everywhere you look. As bad as it is, on Mombasa Road, it's moving very slowly as you approach the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Then onto Huru Highway, slow getting into the CBD. It's going to take us some time to get out of this one. All right, guys. So let's keep it moving as much as we can, and let's try to be responsible on the roads this morning. Spice of MKE is how you can get in touch with us on Twitter. You can still use the bypasses. East and Southern behaving beautifully this morning, as is the Red Hill bypass coming out of Westlands.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way.
It is Kenya's biggest conversation. We broadcast every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We're live on Spice FM, Nairobi 94.4, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, 97.7 in Malindi, Nyeri 90.9, Eldoret 96.7, and Nakuru 96.0. We also live stream the show on Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter, and our website www.spicefm.co.ke. And we are also live for the next 55 or so minutes on KTN Home. Patrick Biwot is asking on Twitter, is this a spelling? Kiva.org, Kiva.org. Yes, Patrick,
Yes.
that is the spelling. Log on to kiva.org and find out more about how you can access this $3 million of SME funding through Google. Okay, so let's begin the hour, CT, with today's proverb.
Today's proverb. When a woman goes on a secret trip, she gathers firewood and returns home.
When a woman goes on a secret trip, she gathers firewood and returns home. And Ndu Oko was wondering whether either a secret trip or firewood are euphemism for something.
Remember, this isn't a political statement I'm making. I am quoting a proverb.
Okay.
So because it is a proverb, you then have to ask yourself, what is the intended message in this particular proverb?
Is there like a Swahili equivalent of this?
Not that I know of.
Mwanamke anaposafiri kisiri.
Well, yeah, you are now translating it.
Anaokota kuni.
And it would make sense if you translate it literally, because one can actually see. But one would have to understand that the gathering of firewood is an activity that did not take a minute.
Oh, no, it isn't.
And sometimes you needed to move fairly far away. It's almost similar to that of going to collect water, depending on where you are. Yes.
I see. So she comes home with firewood, and this serves as, but I had gone to
You've
fetch
got
firewood.
it. It is similar to market days, days on which, see, these are specific activities related to specific days when the movement was okay, because it is explained in advance. This is what is going to be done. So the thing you should be asking is, when I refer to the word secret, therein lies a particular tale.
What is the secret?
That is for me to guess and for you to continue guessing as well.
Okay.
And for Ndu to know.
Oui.
Oh, it's Ndu's secret. Hiya.
Well.
Headline on social media, headline in the papers today, headline everywhere. So let's just look at these two headlines. The Nation has it. Chaos in Kisii as Ruto Raila men clash. Reports indicated there was heavy mobilization of supporters by rival factions a week before the burial. Again, standard high-octane politics at the burial as Ruto and Raila allies fight. Trouble started when South Mugirango MP took to the podium to confront Simba Arati after he had told Ruto to apologize over the 2007 post-election violence. We all saw what was happening. So it was a burial yesterday in Kisii, and it was the burial of Abel Gongera, the father to Kisii Deputy Governor Joash Maangi, where the Deputy President was in attendance, the ODM leader was in attendance, several members of parliament, local leaders from MCAs to community leaders were in attendance, to neighbors. And of course, the family was playing host to all of them, the family that was mourning. So during this conversation, so you know what happens, political leaders stand up to speak one after the other. Dagoretti North MP, his name is Simba Arati, is speaking, is at the podium. He brings the whole conversation back into 2022. Ruto, Raila goes into the whole charade of, what has happened. So, Ruto, you have surrounded yourself with people who are of questionable character. By the way, Ruto, let's go back to 2007, where the people of this region, the Abagusi, who are in Rift Valley, suffered and told suffering and went and told suffering during that violence, and we need to hear an apology before we can even consider. Goes further to talk about 2 versus 44 versus 2. Two communities that have whose sons have been presidents in this country. Now you're telling us that another one. So this whole thing goes south. South Mugirango MP, his name is Sylvanus Osoro, who is present, is among those who stand up, because many people are standing up, some to cheer Simba Arati, others to heckle Simba Arati. South Mugirango MP is among those who are heckling Simba Arati and telling him, shut up, just sit down. And what does he do? He decides to take the bull by the horns. He moves from where he's seated, comes towards the podium, tries to grab the mic from Simba Arati. More and more people come, and there's a scuffle, and we saw what happened. Kaboom. All right? So as all this is happening, what is happening behind them is that the Deputy President is sitting there watching. The ODM leader and the President's brother is sitting there and watching. And they're wondering, okay, so what's happening here? As the headlines are saying, these are Ruto and Raila men who are clashing, including some women, because we can also see nominated Senator Millicent Omanga was involved in this scuffle, and others. So it is about the men and women. Now, I am taking issue here this morning, and I'm taking issue not with Simba Arati, not with Osoro. Those ones, their issues are from here to Timbuktu and beyond. I'm taking issue with the top leadership that was present in the tent yesterday. As everybody who has any sort of intuition can tell, these people were basically playing to the gallery for these leaders to see that I am your man here. But the leaders kept quiet, the leaders sat back, and the leaders took no issue with this. The leaders did not stand up to say, sit down. The leaders did not stand up later to even say, I do not support, I do not agree with what you're doing. The leaders did not make any statement about that scuffle that happened there, about the bad picture that was painted there. William Ruto, the deputy president, sat. Raila Odinga, the ODM leader, sat, and they watched. What I would have expected to see is even Jen Mugo can do something better. Just scream at your dog. Tell it, Hitra, order, Hitra. Hitra, order. And Hitra orders. Hitra calms down. That's what I'm saying. I am taking issue with Ruto and Raila because that was the moment for them to basically take back the reins of this derailing train and say, no, we're here for the burial and we are going to observe decorum. As long as that didn't happen, then we are seeing these guys are going to be encouraged. The next kind of meeting that takes place, there's nothing that will stop Osoro or Arati or Millicent or any other legislator or MCA or political leader to do anything about this. It's wrong. We are hurtling closely and closely towards a very hotly contested, very emotional, very emotive, and likely violent election in 2022. Why? Because we are allowing these things to happen. And we need to stop these things from happening right now.
The scenery, the setting, everything was wrong for this to happen. And the thing is that, unfortunately, a lot of these folks for whom now have made this headline and made this story that everybody's talking about did not come to bury this poor man. They came to do something totally different, and unfortunately, we've seen politics again usurping actually individuals involved in politics, usurping a situation for which it was not meant. And again, we see this unfortunate thing happening. And what I would say is that Kenyans need to look very closely at the leaders that you've selected. Look at them. In what happened yesterday, unfortunately, are representing a greater number of leaders who, when given the opportunity, would behave in the exact same way. So here they are on public display. You know how when you go to a livestock market and they put the livestock on display for you, so you can see it with all its blemishes, or maybe in this case, none. You can see if one has one horn missing. You can see if one has been fattened well. It's on display. In all their glory, here it is. Pick and choose. That's what you've been given, because this is what comes out when they're given a platform upon which they can show you who they are, right? Regardless of who was watching, it didn't matter. This is who you select. This is who represents you as Kenyans. And so I would say, look at the events that happened yesterday. And not just yesterday. Look at the events that have been happening previously. When they're given a public platform, when they're given a platform on which they can talk about what they want to bring about in terms of change, or rather, what is important to them. What do they choose? What do they choose? And on that, you can be very clear what it is that they will choose for the future of this country. So they're not lying. It's not shrouded in any kind of secrecy. They're not presenting themselves to be one thing and actually are another. This is what they're showing you. This is who they are. And unfortunately, it's not the best example. So you want to ask yourself, whom did you actually choose?
And let me ask this
question. Whom did you choose? And here it is.
You're saying it's not the best example. What yardstick are we using to judge the politician? Are we saying that because they are leaders and they are elected leaders, that if we were to say go by the standards of our constitution, there's a certain way in which we expect civil behavior from them?
There's a certain way we expect civil behavior of anybody.
No, we're talking about the leaders.
Yes.
I agree. Now, the incivility. Now, when we say we expect them to be civil, pause and look at the reaction of the crowd. Did you see disdain? Did you see them acting in disgust? Did you see them treating this whole thing as a sham? Did you see people walking away and saying, no, I'm not going to be party to this? Or did you get the impression they were being cheered on?
Yep, that's the unfortunate bit. The unfortunate bit is there is very high likelihood that there are very many people there who are disgusted, okay? But they came here because they were coming for the
To bury
burial
someone.
of Joash Maangi's father. They came for a funeral.
No, tell me, Eric.
Okay? So, although there are people who stood up to cheer, to jeer, there are people who also sat down and wondering, so what's happening?
What on
And you
earth
can
is going
actually
on
see
here?
them in the pictures, in the video clips. You can see people who are just sitting there and they're looking. And probably they're just wondering in their minds, what is all this drama? I don't approve of this. Now, if I walk out, I'm basically leaving them the podium to desecrate this ceremony. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sit here. There are those who were cheering and there are those who were jeering. And those people are the ones who are a problem. The leaders, those who sit cheering, those who sit jeering, and especially the leaders who sat there looking at their fellow leaders and did nothing about it.
You know, would have been a perfect opportunity for somebody. I mean, here, it would have been a perfect opportunity for somebody who leads these individuals, who essentially wants to have a position of leading the country, to stand up in that moment and say, this cannot be the way in which we carry ourselves. Would have been a perfect opportunity, whether you meant it or not, even if it was just for the optics of it, to stand up and say, fellows, guys, women, everybody, this is not why we have come here.
If people went to attend the funeral knowing full well Deputy President Ruto and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga are going to be in attendance, what do you think they were going to do when they knew that these two individuals, these two leaders were actually going to be at the funeral? What do you think? Because I'm sure many people simply went because the two of them were going. It wasn't because this particular gentleman was being buried. The two individuals are crowd pullers.
Right.
So, what do you think? Ask yourself.
So, are you saying that there are people who went there expecting this kind of drama?
Yes, there were. There were.
There were people who were going there waiting to see the kind of drama.
That is precisely
the showdown between Raila and Ruto.
That is precisely what I am saying. I am saying that whenever you see a crowd of individuals going for, whether it's a political rally, the moment there are people whose views it has been presented to be opposed, people expect drama. And if you look at the individuals who actually go, they know this. You can tell just by the security that the parties have around them. That will tell you they understand this full well.
Yep.
They know very, very well what can happen, and they are not going to walk into that particular situation unprepared.
And I'm not prepared to go with this anymore, CT. I am not prepared to go with this anymore. I'm prepared. I'm basically just putting my foot down and saying, no, enough is enough. This has got to come to an end. You have got to get to a point where you know that you shall conduct yourself in a certain way. 2007 started this way. That when people were being branded as madoadoa in several parts of this country, it's not the main political leaders who were calling them this. It's the juniors who would stand up, speak, use the madoadoa terms and this kind of references. When the seniors stand up there, they steer clear of that madoadoa story. They
don't castigate it. They don't speak against it.
Yeah, exactly. The message has been left there. That this is what
Meaning
we are
the message has
about.
actually been left unchallenged.
Completely unchallenged. When this happened yesterday, when we say that, yes, indeed, and I completely agree with you, there's a number of people who are going there because they're like, Ruto anakuja. Others went there because Baba anakuja. Others went there because wacha tutaonesha Baba huku ni kwa Ruto. Or wacha tutaonesha Ruto huku ni kwa Baba. There are those. And there are those who went there because they were going for the funeral of this mzee. Those who knew this mzee, those who know Joash Maangi, those who know Joash Maangi's siblings and relatives. And they were going there to bury this old man. Right? The local community, those who were in the neighborhood, would have gone for this burial, whether Raila Ruto came or not.
Those
people
going to be buried.
were going for mzee's burial. Those people deserve some respect. And as a country, we need to get to that point where you understand, you know the boundaries, and you know this is how we shall conduct ourselves. You cannot say, I'm a member of the National Assembly, therefore you're a national leader, and you stand up and you know full well what you're doing. You know full well the statement that you're making and what the impact the statements that you're making is going to have. Even if Osoro had not stood up to challenge what Simba Arati was saying, that message was at the appropriate platform and forum to speak that message. At what point shall we stand up as Kenyans and say, no, I'm done. This is it. I'm saying today is the day.
You know, funerals are unique in this sense. Because people are mourning, emotions are already charged. And because emotions are already charged, it doesn't take much for this dry piece of wood to actually be lit. It doesn't. It's like it's waiting to be lit. You see, why am I focusing on how it is we view political violence? Because that's what it is. And how is it that we tolerate incivility among our politicians? And you are right. Look at the trends that we've had. It started out with Tanga Tanga Keleweke. That narrative took over from the toxic one we had that led to the handshake. Okay, so it's like this one quietens down, another one picks it up. And we, the media, unfortunately, help add very serious fuel to this particular fire.
But look at what we're looking at here. 18 months to a general election, right? Things are happening in the manner in which they're happening. At a funeral you go, and this is the kind of heat that is going on. It's indicative of what could come in the future if some of these things are not tempered.
But take, for
if some of these things
instance-
are not tempered right now, and we say, oh, it's going to be a peaceful election. Is it really?
No.
There should be a little bit of worry in terms of what would happen by the time we get to an election, if this is going on.
But look at the
now.
political conversations that we've had, whether it was in Sagana, whether it was at a church meeting, if you just take a simple audit of the conversations, they're provocative in most cases.
That means what is it?
So the back and forth has been in the media for the longest time. Now, do you blame people if they expect a showdown?
But sure, look at it. Just below the surface, it's already simmering and it's already boiling and it's already bubbling. It is going to boil over. And I think this is the time to have certain things being put in check. We've talked before, okay, well, there's violence, there's or rather the thought of violence, there's disagreements that could lead. With every time you see that it gets just a notch higher. This has gotten a notch higher as of yesterday. And we're saying that coming into an election in the next 18 months, things are going to get hotter. They're going to get hotter.
Forgetting?
And so that is the mind that people already have.
Or let me
that
say,
the answer, even what we're talking about this morning, that the answer is violence.
Lest we forget.
Unfortunately, that's the answer.
Lest we forget, Kenol, Muranga County.
Yep.
Not very long ago.
Yep.
Still fresh in our minds. This actually led to people dying. Saddest cases, young people.
Last week, Githurai and Burma Market.
Yes.
There was no death, but there was this
People
kind
were
of
injured.
nonsense.
People were injured.
Yes.
People were injured. Some seriously so.
And here we are. Look, unfortunately, here we are, trying to
mollycoddle.
Yeah, pussyfooting around the issue. Want to say, oh no, it's okay.
It's not okay.
We've been able to bring people together. People are marching forward and everybody has this unification of spirit. It is not so. Things like this are very clear that there is an underlying bubbling that's going on right now. And with every opportunity that comes out, you mean these folks who are fighting like this are representing only themselves? They're people who feel the way they feel.
Yeah.
They're people who feel the way they feel. And given an opportunity, things are going to go kaboom. That's
By
what's
the
going
way,
to happen.
over the years, there has been a growing demand for a certain position in the employment sector. Goon trade. Okay? It is a growth industry. And as the political season warms up, okay, this is not a Kenyan phenomenon. No. If what happened in America had not happened, you would have thought, well, it's something that... No. Comments, statements over a period of time. What did it lead to? A whole bunch of people going to their own capital and causing the despicable things we saw. The whole world witnessed it. It is not a secret what can happen if certain things are not nipped in the bud at the time they are nipped.
The question
They
then
should
you
be
would
nipped
ask
rather.
yourself, should they be nipped in the bud, or should they be given an opportunity to come out so that you can really know what the situation is, and then let it come out. Let
the damn thing be nipped. Look, you don't need another history lesson in the outcome of these things. You do not. Because it starts as statements, it gathers momentum,
And
it
becomes
becomes
action,
a mantra,
like we've seen.
it becomes, and
It
before
brings
you
up
know
steam.
it, then it takes profiling. Before you know it, people
it's
are
something
dying.
else that you cannot. It's something else that you then cannot handle.
You won't be able to. Stopping it now takes a war. That's what stops it. A war. And we know you don't have wars with people waving banners and leaves. People die in that process. So you nip it, you stop it, and you hold people accountable.
You know, when this was unfolding yesterday in the afternoon, several groups with people in the journalism profession, and with politicians and people in government and others. When it was breaking out, you'd see the clips now being shared and conversations starting. And in some groups, you'd see people saying, you know what Arati and Osoro should have been told is go outside and sort this thing out. Wapigane, wamenyane tujue nani Simba for real. Others would say, surely this is politics now. This is what happens when you have such a kind of a podium. You make sure that everybody sees and knows whose region this is. This is Kisii going Tanga. Wilbaro is Kisii remaining ODM Baba. This is the moment that we need to show people. Others would say, but guys, this is politics. I mean, what do you expect? And that kind of, casual asking of, it is politics. What else do you expect? What do you expect when Simbarati makes those kind of statements? What do you expect that the supporters of William Ruto are going to do? What do you expect when the truth is being said? What do you expect is going to happen? This is politics. What did you expect was going to be the outcome of that? Of course, it was going to be charged and heated. Of course, that's what you expect when you allow such kind of behavior to take root. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, do we really want to allow this kind of behavior to take root? I have got my own answer, and my own answer as a Kenyan voter and as a Kenyan citizen is absolutely no. No way.
2007 didn't begin as 2007. It began in 1992, 1997, and it continued. You know what? We had what we called tribal clashes, which when you looked at the genesis, they were contrived. It wasn't as though two communities were disagreeing. We know when two communities disagree, we know what happens. And why I'm saying it was contrived is because communities were profiled. And it's odd that these tribal clashes only took place when there was an imminent election around the corner. So, the role of chance and the issue of it being incidental was thrown out of the window. Every time within an election cycle, no. Too much of a coincidence. And then 2007 happened. It had been building up. Any atrocity that you can look at around the world, it starts with something that is almost innocuous, something that you don't even think is important, and yet it's important because the signs are there, and that is when you must nip it. Now, there is a gentleman, a member of parliament, the Kiamba MP, Paul Koinange. He wants a National Cohesion and Integration Act amended to include these issues of hustler, dynasty, all these things. He wants this to be considered because it is, as far as concerned, it's incitement and discrimination. He wants it to be part of what we call, it's classified as hate speech.
Hate speech.
Yes. So at some level, the people who've seen the trend and they've realized we need to nip this thing.
Seeing the danger that could come about because of some of these things that are said as a result of these narratives that are being spun. Very, very dangerous territory that's being walked on. And unfortunately, it continues to be perpetuated by those who are in positions. So it is those who are in these political positions who are putting it out there by virtue of the platforms that they have.
This is a national platform, so it's caught the national attention. But with every election cycle, many people die in whatever regions they come from because of this is a culture that has grown and has taken root. People die. There are people who earn their daily bread from simply expounding and expressing and exporting and practicing hooliganism. That is how they live.
Yep.
And many die as a process of it. It isn't talked about too often. Too much of a fuss isn't kicked. But these are lives. These are important lives. These are people's children, people's husbands, people's brothers, people's cousins.
And it passes on just like that.
Yes.
Let's take a break. 28 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The situation we are discussing about the scuffle that happened during a burial in Kisii yesterday, where MPs and legislators and nominated senator and political lackeys of senior political leaders were captured on clips, on photos, basically just going at each other. We want to ask you, what do you make of that? What you saw yesterday? 0719-012-600. We'll pick your calls after this break. We are live on KTN Home, on Spice FM, and online.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Living with HIV is not a death sentence. Thanks to advances in medicine, HIV is now a manageable illness, with patients able to lead normal lives and raise families as they achieve their goals and their dreams. Tune in to the Spice Drive with me, Monique, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday as we talk about HIV, why it's important to know your status, ways to protect yourself, how you can get tested, and how testing positive should not stop you from living a normal life. Courtesy of the National AIDS Control Council, NACC.
From 1902, the Standard Group has transformed to help steer the ship in the right direction and become one of the leading media houses in Africa. With 4 TV channels, 3 radio stations, robust digital platform, and numerous progressive initiatives, we are everywhere our audiences are. We don't just bring content, but content that inspires and motivates the people who've supported us over the years. It is the pillar that will forever cement and uphold our heritage as the Standard Group. The Standard Group. It's our future's heritage.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
It's also sunny in Nyeri, 14 degrees, going to highs of 25 and lows of 12. 12 will also be the low in Nakuru, mostly sunny conditions at 15, going to highs of 28. 27 the high in Eldoret at 12 now. Sunny conditions through most of the days. 22 degrees and sunny also in Kisumu. 21 will be the low, going to highs of 32. Mostly sunny conditions in Kakamega at 19, highs of 32 and lows of 15. It's sunny in Mombasa, 27, highs of 33 and lows of 24. 25 is what we're looking at as the low in Malindi today. It'll rise some to highs of 31. Kampala, Uganda is sunny at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 18. It's sunny in Dar es Salaam at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 25. And rain showers continue in Johannesburg at 13. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 16. Lagos is clear now at 27, highs of 33 and lows of 25, while Kinshasa continues to rain at 24, with highs of 32 and lows of 23.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
All right, has it changed much? Well, not really. We still see heightened levels of traffic right around the city today. Coming off of Mombasa Road, still some as you are trying to approach the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Very, very slow today. It'll pick up some right past Bellevue, but then slow down again as you approach the roundabout. Okay, so we're still looking at Kiambu Road. There was craziness, but now it seems to have opened up some. It looks like 8:30 is the magic time, because then now it is clear. Coming onto Thika Road, as you get to the Pangani underpass, it will slow down just a bit as you get into the city centre. All right, on Limuru Road, it slows down right around Village Market as you then pass Aga Khan and then out towards the CBD. Use Wangari Maathai Road also. Getting into the CBD, you should be fine. All right, we'll take a look in about half hour, see how this may have changed. Tuesday traffic is not as crazy as it was on Monday, but let's keep safe all the time. Spice FMKE on Twitter is how you can talk to us, or text on 40127.
Spice and everything nice. All right, okay. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
9 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and online. In the room this and every weekday morning is C.T. Muga, Nduoko, and Eric Latif. We are revisiting the violent scenes that we saw yesterday during a burial for the father to the Deputy Governor of Kisii County, Joash Maangi, and this is the burial of Mzee Abel Gongera. So during that burial ceremony, we saw members of parliament and politicians basically just getting physical with one another. It was violent. There were violent scenes, and we were asking ourselves, so is this the way we are heading towards the next general election? If you ask anybody in this country, they'll tell you, the kind of thing that you're seeing is that 2022 is going to be hotly contested. Temperatures are rising. It's clearly going to be one of those very tense elections. When you have such statements, basically what it means is people are getting that fear at the back of their minds that this could go south. It could turn very violent. Innocent people are likely to die. And it starts with such kind of, behavior, public behavior, utterances being made here and there, statements being made here and there, framing of political conversations going this and that, and then it has an impact. So we want to hear what you think about this on 0719-012-600. Also, you can post your comments on social media, Spice FM KE on Twitter or on Facebook. Let's hear from Tijin in Utawala. Good morning, Tijin.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Long time. Yes, really, I was very eager to contribute to this motion.
Right.
Yeah, I've declared my interest to vie for president in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the next general election. And as a leader, I'm feeling very bad when I see these things happen. You see? Because actually, when you see leaders like Raila and Ruto seated there, and guys like leaders like Arati and sort of fighting, it's really a bad picture to this country. And it's so pathetic that now leaders who are leading people are fighting for Raila and Ruto, and they cannot fight for us when doctors are striking there. They cannot fight for us when a lot of funds are going through corruption and everything else. They can just be bribed and everything else happening in this country. It means the total leadership of this country has failed, right from the MPs to their top leaders. They have failed. And it is time that us as citizens must see this clearly, that really these people should not be allowed to lead us anymore. Neither should we allow ourselves to follow their footsteps, you see.
Yeah.
Last time it was innocent citizens, young people died at Moranga. Today they are leaders fighting. At that time in Gidurai, you see, it is not good at all. And I will propose that it is a collective effort that all of us must now carry moving forward. The media must not give this visibility and this platform for this game.
Okay.
Either these days should not allowed to do politics in barriers and such other things. These leaders must now be accountable of the words and sentiments they give out, including their soldiers. They must not be accountable moving forward. Because if you don't do this, I'm telling you, you're heading to a very wrong direction.
That's very true, Tejin. Let's also hear from Teddy in Voi. Teddy, good morning.
Yes. Good morning, sir.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you. I'm particularly so much disturbed.
Okay.
And I want to say this categorically: it is so bad. This country, we are getting it into a drain. If we cannot take keen interest on this matter, we are going to burn this country worse than we did in 2007. It's a high time that our leaders should take these things very seriously. It's not a question of a leader standing on a podium and saying we are Mrengo X and we are Mrengo Y. Let leaders take this into accountable. And please, media, don't allow such a kind of a thing to continue, because we as Kenyans, from where we sit, we are far away from our homes, and we are seeing this happening. Now, what will happen in 2022? So we are really concerned about this. We are really concerned.
We hear you, Teddy.
We are really concerned.
We hear you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Justin in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Justin.
Yeah, I just wanted to have a few comments on what happened yesterday in Kisii.
Go ahead.
And this is very sad when we watch what is happening with our leaders. While the country is really undergoing economic problems. And these leaders, what they are doing is they are not minding about the welfare of the common man.
Okay.
So it's really very sad to have happened, and this is just a trend. It's what happens every election session.
That's true.
So I think it's a high time the Kenyans, me and the rest, those who go to vote, It's a high time to now we decide. Not only even the president we are going to vote, is the leader. Because these are the people who are leading this country.
That's true. Thank you very much, Justin. Let's hear from Robert in Nairobi. Good morning.
Good morning, Citizen.
How are you?
I'm fine.
What's your comment on this?
I think the contribution is that Simba Arati is a very useless leader.
Okay.
Because when you look at the issues, I was watching that video. Look at the issues he was talking about. He wants to become a governor of Kisii County. Hello?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, he cannot say the issues of Kisii. If you look what Osoro said when he was making his contribution and talked about the BBI, I hope you can hear.
Yes, we can hear you.
Loud and clear.
He was speaking about equality in sharing. But when Simba Arati came to the podium, he started talking about how the Kalenjins were killed and everything. If he has evidence, why can he not go to court? Why should he come telling people that the Kalenjin community killed the Kisii community? How sure is he? Or is he not inciting people? Because he was wasting time and not talking about the issues of the Kisii people. Telling them about the issue. He told them that if MPs are given 4 million to buy cars, it is not wrong for MPs to be given 2 million. At this time, in this economic crisis, how can you tell citizens that MPs will be given 2 million to go and buy a car? Yet, he has not said that more classrooms to be built. He has not said that more roads to be built in Kisii County. He's only talking about leaders. No, me, I don't think Arati is not focusing on the issues of
the issues at hand. Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. Let's hear from Moses in Malaba at the border. Good morning, Moses.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Fine, thank you.
I have a lot of trouble with our Kenyan politics. It is, I don't know what these government organs are doing. When people fight in public, even ordinary people, you fight before a policeman, he will arrest you. And there will be a charge for you. To make these people so special that they do it in broad daylight, in a public, and nothing is done. I want to ask Kenyans that really this country is for all of us. This idea of being told things to do with Kieleweke, Tangatanga, whatever it is, I eat at this idea. I am requesting that we turn down, and all these people say what they want, but when we go to the ballot, let's go to that ballot as people of this republic.
Okay.
And we have known their character. Let us really sieve them and try to get the best. Otherwise, the DCI and the police should do their job.
Should take action on this.
And maintain peace.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Moses. Have a good day at the Malaba border.
You too, thanks.
Coming back to Nairobi. Henry, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well.
Yes, let me also make my little contribution towards that motion.
Okay.
The fighting between those two lawmakers from Kisii County, although one is hailing from Nairobi, was a big shame. Kwanza in a funeral in somebody's poma, that is not a good example to our youth. This is a time we even we are really talking here about our school children, boys and girls, who are even banning their schools. And today, drawing the example and emulating from these leaders all around us, it is not a good show. That was bad. Fighting even before the public, before their bosses. It was a bad show. May it not be repeated again.
Thank you, Henry.
It's like women fighting over man. I didn't like it.
Thank you very much, Henry. We hear you.
Thank you so much.
Patrick in Vihiga, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you there?
We're fine.
From where I sit, we have been brought up in a way that to understand the funerals brings together foes, friends, mourners, and everybody for the same theme of mourning the dead. And that is just the topic of the day. since the advent of COVID, funerals have been controlled. And in fact, the longest time they take is about 1 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes for ordinary people. But whenever a senior person dies, or a relative of a senior person, politicians break the rule. The time extends from around 8 to 5 p.m. So I feel we ordinary people are being misled by politicians.
So you think they shouldn't even have been there in the first place? If we're even going to look at the COVID issue, they should not have been there at all.
They shouldn't, because some of them don't attend the funerals of ordinary people. So why do they choose such a funeral to go and exchange their bitterness in politics?
Funerals have large crowds, my brother, and politicians love large crowds.
But is it expensive to go to the police to obtain a license and organize a big political party and express your agenda?
Actually, you know as well as I do that they could, but that is
spend money when you have
that's a crowd for free.
Yeah.
But then what is the theme of the day?
Did
that him say no any violence in his lifetime? And don't forget the fact that the family was mourning. Why don't we go there and mourn with them?
Yep.
And in fact, these politicians are so weak in parliament that they don't articulate issues facing people. They only shout for their people, for their bosses. I would propose that their political party should take stand action against them.
Okay.
We are losing track.
Asante sana, Patrick.
Asante sana.
Right. Also, very many comments coming in on social media, and we're going to be looking at them. What are they saying?
Julia Kajituju says the outcome of a botched BBI, and that's what she says. The train should have stopped for everyone, I think. Griffin says, it's not as though we don't understand that the person who instigated this hustler versus dynasty narrative had a motive. He wanted to create a platform in which he can thrive, and as he has always done, it is clear that it is his strategy, meaning that division is key. Tom Ogonga says, we should stop giving too much credit to politicians. They are not leaders. They are just divisive, opportunistic, and manipulative and greedy politicians. Democracy dictates you have a right to only defend what you say. I may not agree, but I have a right of reply.
Okay.
Kwame says, one thing is clear. We just have bad, ill-mannered leaders. Much has been said, but but looks like they keep on coming with and creating new violent tactics. This is good so long as they make a follow-up of... Okay, so that's another thing there. Okay, so I wish we could go beyond the generic description of the demerits of political violence, according to Rabat Nicholas, to calling out specific individuals for their role in fueling some of these things. And those individuals, I guess we're saying calling them out because it was their responsibility. What they said then... Does it not cast a negative light on those that they represent? They said this and they themselves should be called out, yes, for sure. But does it say something about the movement, quote unquote, that is behind them or the individual that they're representing? Definitely they should be called out, because what they did, had they not made those statements, you could say that this funeral would have carried on in peace and the poor man would have been buried and would not have been talking about anything beyond this. But by virtue of the fact that they said what they said, that's why we saw all of this this entire fiasco.
Consider, in the not too distant past, there was a funeral of Musalia Mudavadi's mother.
Yes.
There was no violence.
Nope.
But if you're talking about speeches that had nothing to do with the funeral, the trend was also similar.
It was.
Now, the question you want to ask is this. Just because politicians have a way of doing things and they have made it the norm, it is, when I say they have made it, that's really what it is.
It's been accepted as we expect this to happen.
So because it is, are we then to set a new set of standards for politicians and say, okay, when it comes to politicians, we expect them to behave this way and we judge them by what we expect and not by any other standard?
In our presence.
I think that we you have to destabilize the norm. And I'm saying that it should be that we expect them to behave honorably, especially in situations like this.
Actually,
we should be expecting them not to do what they did.
I would
or
like
what
to.
they do.
I would like to prefer a different opinion on that one. I wouldn't waste my expectations.
But here
I wouldn't.
If we're expecting people to behave badly, that is exactly what they're
it's
going
not that
to
I
do.
expect them.
If you don't waste your expectations, so what are you doing with your expectation as a politician?
I am looking at the reality. You see, an enabling environment for the behavior that we see has been provided for the longest time. That's why the term norm comes in.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is, if I disagree with their behavior, I first of all have to sit at a point and understand, why do these people behave the way they do? Because their behavior is a symptom. It's not the problem. It's really not the problem.
What is the problem?
The problem is impunity. Again, they know they can get away with this.
But they've gotten away with it the first time, the second time, the third time. It becomes normal. Right?
It shouldn't be.
Exactly. So that's what we are saying.
If we
that
call them out today
you
and
destabilize
say,
the norm.
for example, we'd like to see action taken against these two political leaders, especially these two, right? These two MPs, Simba Arati and Silvana Sosoro. These two, what action can be taken about on them? Then we call on those that would like to be the leaders, the national leaders, the president of this country, who are present in this kind of meeting and say, these guys were basically, and all the callers who are speaking here are saying, these guys were acting for their bosses. They were acting for their bosses. They wanted to show, when it comes to matters of Gusii land, Baba, I am the man. When it comes to politics of Gusii land, Ruto, I am your man. Those people, and they very, 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 very sharp political players, and they know this. That's why in other instances they'd say, when you see a dog barking, you don't deal with the dog. You look for the owner. So clearly they could see the dogs barking, and they are the owners. What did they do to leash their dogs? I am taking issue, yes, 100% with all these guys who are making noise here. Simba, Arati, Osoro, and others. But I'm also calling out on William Ruto, the Deputy President, Raila Odinga, the ODM leader, and saying, you also have a role to play. In such a place, this is where you show your leadership and you show this is the direction that this country should be heading. This is how we shall observe decorum in such instances.
And I also
stand up immediately and tell this person who starts, when Osoro is on who was talking and he goes veers a certain direction, you venture to him and show him, no, this is not the platform. No, this is not the route we shall take. When Arati stands up, you signal him and tell him, no, this is not how we shall behave.
I think just because because things have been made normal doesn't mean that they should be continually accepted. We say, okay, it's normal and it's bad behavior. We know that it is wrong, right? But because it's normal, we expect it to be that way. Then we continue to accept it. And I don't think we should. Or it's a funeral. We expect them to say this. It has become so normalized. No, start to take action against it. And then perhaps that will start to destabilize this norm that everybody has so quickly accepted. It isn't right. It isn't. What are we saying has fueled a lot of the violent action? The first thing is a thought, becomes a word, then becomes an action. And then it becomes something normal that everybody expects to happen. And then you begin to imbibe these things and people are afraid about upcoming elections. What do you expect?
If you want to know just how normal it has become, when you speak against something of this sort, which is in essence fairly despicable, the view that is then seen, surely it is politics. It shouldn't be.
It should not be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't
be. We need to stop excusing things and saying Nisiasa. People are killed in Nisiasa. Children died in Sagana. Nisiasa. People's homes are torched. Nisiasa. People lose a limb. This is politics, but what do you expect? People steal. It's directly stealing from, and then when they go out there and they're starting to throw barbs at one another, oh, you guys are wash. Oh, no, you guys steal from Nisiasa. Absolutely not. Anyway, let's say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home and ask you if you want to continue tuning into this conversation. You can tune into Spice FM wherever you are. If you're in Nairobi, it's 94.4. If you're in Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, and Malindi is 97.7. Also, you can tune into the Situation Room online. We are streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, on Twitter, and on YouTube as well. See you again tomorrow, KTN Home.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
All right, more comments coming in. Sindano says, I pray. Vincent says, Ruto and Raila should have condemned the chaos that erupted during the Kisii burial yesterday by the dishonorable MPs. But the contrary, the two leaders, what they did, Raila and Ruto also stood and spoke ill of one another. What a shame to those that we call leaders in this country. Banda says Kenyans love
this political fascism.
Mhm.
Tunapenda sana politics ya matusi, vita na chaos.
That's who we've become. Impunity at its best. Mike Mwangi says this is impunity. This is how impunity has reared its ugly head. The same sentiments are being expressed by Rabach Nicholas, who says political violence is a manifestation of a systemic impunity. If someone broke the law, he should be called out and arrested. The both of you is to appeal for responsibility will not work.
Okay, some of the comments here that we are seeing. Interestingly enough, Kenya, listen and learn. Political funerals were common in the US historically, but the people said enough is enough and moved to very private funerals. Political funerals must be banned in Kenya. Okech Otete says...
That isn't going to happen very soon.
Well, okay. Tribalism in America, ethnicity in Ethiopia, clanism in Somalia, totalitarianism in Rwanda. Politicians are like bananas, crooked and bent.
Actually, politicians are not bent. No. Whether we like it or not, we love our politicians the way they are. If we didn't, we would react and behave differently towards them.
So the problem starts with us.
No.
We are the ones who've accepted this.
I'm not even calling us a problem. I'm saying that why are we being hypocritical about a state of affairs that we have accepted as normal and that we contribute to? That's really what I'm saying.
Maybe we're not being hypocritical. Maybe what we're doing is calling it out as it is and saying, let's face reality. You know, when you're facing reality, you're not actually not being hypocritical. You're basically looking at your reality and saying, hiya. This is
what it looks like.
The hypocrisy comes in when we now appear to condemn and point fingers at the politician. This is what I'm saying.
Okay.
The politician who is a member of either the county assembly or the MP was not necessarily the one who was there the previous 5 years. And yet the behavior is identical. You'd actually think that they were nurtured in the same incubation process. You'd think.
Sure, CT, but does it mean that because you have a stain and you see something else going on, that you shouldn't call it out?
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't call it out. I am saying that anything that is worth correcting starts with you asking yourself, what is my role in this entire activity?
And I think that role can be played.
That is really what I'm asking.
I think that can be done simultaneously where you actually do point out and say, look, in as much as I'm saying that what you're doing is wrong, also gives you an opportunity to look at yourself and do some reflection and say, actually, you know what, am I behaving in a way, on whatever platform, that is wrong as well? But to keep quiet about something like this, in my opinion, would be a double disservice.
Do you know
when you see something like this going on?
What is considered to be sufficient about this discourse? Oh, you know, so-and-so died. You know, that story is finished.
That's
that's what I'm saying. And this we came from the very beginning. The person who came to be buried.
And when people discuss violence, it's not with disdain, it's with relish. Hey, do you know what happened? That's how it is discussed. You talk to people in any political situation. What you'll find amazing is that it's like there are people who look forward to that combative season when they can unleash violence. Look, when something becomes normal, it means it has taken root, it has found its space, and it's unlikely to move on its own. It has to be moved. Yes.
And even that's what I'm saying. Even the deepest root can be uprooted.
To move it?
The deepest root can be uprooted once you decide that you're not going to
The
allow
people
it.
who
You take an instrument to it to remove it.
Yes.
You don't let it continue growing deeper.
Back to the
deeper.
basic discussion. Unless it becomes despicable and people genuinely and honestly deploy it, it will not change. It won't move.
There's got to be an uprising, some groundswell movement saying no.
That this is actually wrong.
It starts with a soul voice.
Ideally,
if we're going to be the three soul voices, let's start there. But it has to start somewhere. And everybody else who's called here who's condemning it, everybody else who's commenting on social media who's condemning it, this is increasing the number of people who are condemning this. The next thing is take action and say, okay, no, we demand, first of all, accountability to the people who orchestrated this yesterday. Let's see action being taken on them. And let's go beyond that and say, next time there's something like this in my presence, we shall take action. It's also possible that some of those people that were so, standing up to shout yesterday were actually standing up to say, no, we do not want this kind of nonsense at this funeral. But they were drowned out.
It is very possible.
Yes, indeed. Coming up to the top of the hour, let's see what's happening on the road, and then we continue with conversations. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. As we go into this, we are seeing King Africa saying, watching from Kitale, what I saw yesterday was so sad and silly for Kenyan politics. This is what King Africa says on social media. What do you think? Continue posting and sharing your comments on social media. Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so the traffic had disappeared on Kiambu Road, but for some reason now it is back. And yes, we're looking at very, very many lanes, trying to then join the Thika Superhighway. Very slow on Kiambu Road. It's inching along on Mombasa Road in some parts. This traffic seems to go and come. So let's see. It's like antibiotics moving very slowly this morning. Hope that we can get into the city without too much of an issue coming out of Westlands. Looking not too bad right around the University Way roundabout. Coming off of Ngong Road as well. It's also looking pretty good. And Langata Road, as you join the Timor roundabout, going towards Bagathi Way, going towards Nyayo Stadium, that also should not take you too badly right now. Okay, so we'll be out of traffic hours soon. A little dregs of morning traffic is what we're dealing with now. All right, talk to us if you must. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's begin this hour with the day's proverb.
When a woman goes on a secret trip, she gathers firewood and returns home.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
That's it.
Goes, secret trip, gathers kuni, comes home.
Pre-post editing, that's it.
Okay. We shall get to understand what this means as we continue these conversations going forward. So, we're heading into 2022. A lot of things are happening ahead of 2022, right? There's, of course, the formation of various political coalitions. There's now what we are seeing as political positions being taken by various leaders who are saying this is where they are aligning themselves. There's political messaging that's now coming out. This is our message going into the next election. There's the entire political behavior that we are calling politics. And as we talk about this city, you want to bring us into that area of, as we go into 2022, this is how we shall cultivate sanity. And you are going into the top of the hour on that note of what then needs to happen so that we can have sane, sober political discussion ahead of the election.
There's something you said about the taking a stand, making sure that you position yourself and make your thoughts known. In all honesty, you do not know just how spot on you are. It does not require 100 people. It requires one person. And that statement can be made loudly. The period leading to 5th June 1989, there were protests in China. It culminated in activities around Tiananmen Square, and this became iconic in the sense as it's what a lot of the protests that were being had then was remembered by. But there's one incident that caught the attention of the world. There was one lone protester who stood in front of a line of tanks. 6 of them stood, meaning he could have been run over. He stood. The tanks stopped. He's actually known as the lone protester.
Yeah.
His name is not really known. Whatever became of him also is not really known. But it's iconic in the sense that it showed that the determination of this individual to show what he felt. Meaning, when you're standing in front of a tank, what it means is you're prepared to be run over. And if you run over, it isn't as though you'll then get up and discuss it for the rest of the week. You're dead. Now, it's the same thinking that you realize was at the forefront of many people whom refer to as liberation leaders right across the world. The one thing they did was their life became forfeit.
Yeah.
They figured, no, there's a bigger goal here, and the safety in my beings and staying well, this isn't going to be a priority. The priority is I am actually going to stand firm and I'm going to take a position where these are concerned. Those positions, in the time that we live in, and in this era of democracy and in this era of multipartyism, it's almost fading. It's almost forgotten. Mau Mau came and went. Then we had the years of the single party in this country. People got detained. Now, the leader of the opposition in this country, Raila Odinga, is iconic in the sense that he represented, he and among others, people who are willing to stand up and say, you know, folks, this one, we are actually not going to take this. The Kenneth Rubias of this, the Charles Rubias of this world. People who were willing to stand up and say, folks, we are not. The Koigi Wamweres, the Martin Shugus. There were many, the George Anyonas. People like even James Orengo. I mean, people stood and said, this is not something that we are going to accommodate. And there were many other people who nobody remembers because they are not political figures of the time, but they were not spared detention or jail terms. There were many others. Some fled the country, some went to nowhere, and some even went and died there. Some just got back into ordinary life and just faded away. But they made a stand. When you see behavior of this sort, if you're talking about political leadership, this is where you tell the men from the boys. This is where you talk about real leadership and pseudo leadership. People who are willing to stand up and be counter and to say, you know something, if something is wrong, it's wrong. It doesn't really matter who is saying it, and I will stand with what is right. And if you have political leaders who seem to think they're political leaders and all they're leading people into more mayhem and more chaos, then your leadership is really not leadership.
But look at how skewed it has become. Is that the individual who stands up to basically, quote unquote, face this issue head on is the one who now believes that he or she is the man, as it were. Whereas realizing that your action is wrong, and that the manly thing to do or the right thing to do would actually to be saying, this we cannot continue to do. Whether it is instigating violence at a political rally, whether it is corruption, stealing from public coffers, whatever it is, the person who would then stand up and, stand to be counted and say this is wrong is essentially the one who is the true leader. But it's become so skewed that the opposite is the case. That you're the one who's supposedly meets your political enemy or contender head on, saying things that you shouldn't say, behaving in a manner in which you shouldn't, is the one who's seen as the man. I mean, can you imagine?
Yep.
It's the opposite.
Well, it's a normalcy that is born out of contentment. Okay? So there is a semblance of it, there's an appearance of it, there's an appearance of adhering to the principle of stating what is wrong, but as you correctly put, it's completely skewed and mired. So what is now standing up for wrong is standing up against somebody who seems to oppose either your views or your path towards the political greatness that you seek. That's where the opposition is. The opposition now is not right or wrong. No.
It's the one who's coming against
It's
you.
individuals,
Yeah.
you see? So the principles have actually been confused and mad and confused with the individualistic politics and the individualistic goals and ambitions that politicians have. And that's what we're dealing with. So even if you look at the conversation about right and wrong, the conversation is about who is, not supporting who is. It's not what is, it's who.
It is who.
Yes. So when you talk about right and wrong now, immediately the conversation changes to why are you picking on so and so? And yet you're talking about a principle.
A principle of right and wrong, which is something that should be carried across board, regardless of who. It doesn't matter. Me, you, the person in political leadership, the person in a corporate office, right or wrong.
Right or
Principles
wrong.
that we should be led by. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter even if I am stained as whatever I look like what, I should be, and I'm working on your redemption or whatever it is, you should be able to see that it is wrong and call it out. And that's what we're saying, that at this point, you're tipping the scales. Not to talk about who and however far you want to go, but saying that this behavior, that because of the fact that you're in a position of leadership where people are influenced by what you say,
and do.
They copy what you do. And they take what you do as the norm. You must be very careful how you operate. And that's what I'm saying. And I'm not going to go back on it for whatever.
But that's not how impunity operates.
But what we're saying, we need to tip the scales.
That's
Operates.
That's not how
impunity operates.
functions.
It's been operating. It functions that way. But what we are saying is we cannot continue to allow things to function the way in which they've been functioning because we're hurtling towards the end of this.
Let's pause a little bit
on,
and talk about the reality of things. Huh? If the impunity that is being practiced favors you, why would you want to change it?
It's working for you.
Why would you want to change it? Why?
And that's, it's that allows you to play in this murky game.
Yes.
If you actually speak to these people, the politicians, ask them. If you went and asked Osoro today, why did you stand up? He'd tell you, look, fire, you respond to fire with fire. You cannot be the one who sits back there and says, oh, no, what you're saying is wrong. When the guy is insulting your leader. Fire is responded to with fire. You put out fire with fire. That's what they'll all tell you. Talk to any of the people who are in political parties and political campaigns right now, and they tell you, yeah, but that reaction, that's what was required. You can't allow this thing. Somebody speaks and says something, and the other one is, no, I will not be quiet and calm about this. I'm going to give you the response that you deserve. And according to them, the response that you deserve is hitting back at you the same way you've come. If you've gone this direction, you veer the same direction so that you can address them.
Let's go back a little into history and look at some of the traits that were considered among Kenyans to be traits that were considered to be manly. Okay?
Yes.
Men were not expected to laugh or to be even jovial. So if you look at the pictures of most men, go into history, they always seem to have, you get the impression that these fellows, all of them collectively have a stomach ache because there's a certain pained look on their faces. I don't know whether it's supposed to exhibit anger. And then there is the male response to things. It's usually in the form of a bark. And it's followed by an order, which must be responded to immediately. And if it's not responded to, there's another response. A beating is awaiting you. For the longest time, many of our cultures considered this to be signs of manliness. So when someone talks to you, they're talking to you loudly and they're ordering you. Have you heard what I've said? Meaning, why are you not doing what you've been commanded to do? And you couldn't be manly if you didn't react angrily to things, and if you didn't respond with violence to things. Now, that is why for the longest time you will hear many African parents, the response to trying to instill discipline in a child, I will beat you. You take it for granted and say, it is normal. I will slap you. Now you tell me, we normalized violence a long time in our lives. That is why it doesn't really shock us very much when you see it in political rallies. It's not really shocking. Many problems are solved as in A, by a warning, followed by an activation of that particular warning. When someone says to you, don't joke with me, I will beat you, they are not threatening you. They are being prophetic and
They're forewarning you.
They're forewarning you. They're telling you the outcome, something that is going to happen to you. Okay? And that is why in some communities, when people disagree, it is considered normal for people to settle the differences violently.
Yeah.
Now we are saying, we want to fight all this and say, folks, there was a time when it may have made sense. It actually no longer makes sense. You can't resolve a problem by cutting off each other's ear. It doesn't work. Or chopping off each other's arms. How do you solve the problem?
The problem is not addressed.
No, it's not addressed. What you've done is created even further enmity.
Yeah. Okay, into this. Let's take a break at 9:15. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. C.T. Muga is saying, it takes a lone voice, a lone protester, one person to stand up for what they believe is right and setting the cause of the country in the right direction. When the country requires some course correction, then it calls on the people to basically take up the action. This is what we are discussing this hour. You can join the conversation on 0719 012 600 or on Spice FM KE on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Good morning.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
you.
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
All right, it's sunny in Nairobi now, completely. 15 degrees at the moment. We'll go to highs of 28 today. Looking like a warm day in Nairobi. Highs of 25 in Nyeri today, where it's mostly sunny at 16. 17 degrees and mostly sunny conditions in Nakuru. Highs of 28 and lows of 12. 12 will also be the low in Eldoret, where it's sunny at 14 at the moment, going to highs of 27. We're looking at highs of 32 in Kisumu, 24 and sunny at the moment. Mostly sunny conditions in Kakamega. Highs of 32 and lows of 15. Highs of 33 in Mombasa, where it's mostly sunny at 26. We're looking at mostly sunny conditions in Malindi at 28. Highs of 31 and lows of 24. And lows of 18 in Kampala, 22 and mostly sunny, going to highs of 28. 32 will be the high in Dar es Salaam, where it's mostly sunny at 29. Rain showers in Johannesburg still continue. And we will see lows of 13. 25 the high, rather 25 the low in Lagos. And the rains have come back. 27 degrees at the moment. It's also raining in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 32 and lows of 23. It's 1 degree in Beijing now. It's sunny, however, in the afternoon. Highs of 2 and lows of minus 11 is going to be pretty cold today. And it's flooding in some parts of France. In Paris at the moment, rain showers at 10, going to highs of 14. Cloudy conditions in London at 6. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 13. And rounding things out in New York, it's now Tuesday morning at 1 degree. Highs of 2 and lows of minus 2.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Right here, the lone voice, the lone protester, the hummingbird, This is what Wangari Maathai said. I will be a hummingbird. The one that is left sending the sound across the entire forest. That danger is here, the danger is lacking. This is what we need to do. We want to hear what you think about this. 0719012600. Our friend Ruben Kigame in Eldoret is on the line. Good morning, Ruben.
Hey, good morning, guys, and happy new month.
Happy new month.
Morning, Ruben. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for your sober conversations. If there's anything that this country should be grateful for is, what you guys are doing every morning.
Sante.
And I don't say this to gainsay anything. I think having a balanced conversation on each of these topics is something very rare. So thank you for what you're doing.
Sante.
Thank you, Ruben.
Yeah, so may I please contribute to this public hooliganism?
Please do.
Did you say you want to contribute to public hooliganism?
You'd be in good company, Ruben.
I got the gist. I would like to contribute to the eradication of public hooliganism.
Thank you.
I am very concerned about where we have got as a country.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make a few observations as to what may be contributing to this and maybe how we can get out of it.
Yeah.
So 3 things come to mind. First of all, the adage that nature somehow abhors a vacuum. We have a vacuum that is gaping. It's a big, big hole in the leadership structure. So the lack of proper leadership right now leaves room for everybody and anybody to come up and say anything and do anything without anybody saying this far and no further. And this stretches to commissions, to organs that are even tasked with controlling some of what is going on, like the Council on the NCEC. So we have all these organs that could bring down the temperatures, but they don't. I mean, it's almost like on your marks, get quiet. So so there is a vacuum in leadership, and nobody is able to stand up and say, hey guys, you know what? We cannot go this direction. And that's what you observed in Kisii yesterday, that you have 2 prominent leaders watching things unfold. I mean, and they are probably just whispering to one another. It's business as usual.
Yeah.
And the fact that that could happen like that already shows that we cannot trust them to actually provide leadership. Because leadership does not begin in 2022, it begins now. So that vacuum. The second thing is about profiling. And profiling, many of us are accustomed to profiling as, somebody really coming up and calling you a cockroach and somebody else calling you something else. But it begins very subtly with the kind of polarization that happens, me versus you, we versus you. And even though you go back to the Kieleweke and Tanga, it is really part of the big fabric of what is in political parties. It is, we are Republicans, you are Democrats, we're Jubilee, you're ODM, And so citizens are often polarized alongside certain sloganeerings and all kinds. But at the end of the day, it's really who fashions that slogan and who carries the day with it. So now the country has been polarized for over 1 year, and 2022 is only going to get worse unless this is stopped. Because now we no longer concentrate on issues. We ask who is saying and what side does he belong to, what side does she belong to. So the issues are thrown out of the window. And that is a very, very bad place to be. We versus you.
Yep.
Now, the last thing I'd like to focus on is the issue of audience. You know, the reason why the politicians actually do what they do and go to funerals is because of crowds.
Yeah.
And there are three main sources of crowds in the country. One is funerals, of course. One is the church pulpit. And then the other is media. Now, the difference between media and the first two is that at least when they come to a station like yours, you can query them, you can question them, and you can tell them you can't say this.
Yep.
The other two, in most cases, like in churches, you are either already taken a big offering, and so you can't say anything. And in the case of a funeral, you know, this person is a politician. And if it was a politician, then they say, because he's a politician, we must talk politics. I mean, I've been to funerals. The latest was last week, where it was decided, and there were politicians, you know, you have the Oscar Sudis and so on, who said, we will not do politics here. And there was no politics.
Yep.
So it can be done. But my biggest quarrel right now is with the law enforcers, you know, who will watch as all this unfolds. Isn't there a place for the police to come and say, you know what, you can't do this here? That is, even if you don't have the leaders of the parties, you know, coming up and saying, stop this thing. I think we have a lot of security on the ground. If you tried to bring any kind of fracas at, you know, Uhuru Stadium or Nyayo Stadium, they will whisk you away. I don't know why they wouldn't whisk anybody away at this funeral.
Because of their status.
Yeah, but the status is there at Uhuru Park too. So we are coming to a very dangerous. So what's the way out? First of all,
how do we course correct?
So the first thing is us. You guys are playing your part. The three of you, you know, putting this discussion out is really commendable. But the next space is really social media. If we could pull this to some kind of civility where we may be few voices, but we say, no, you can't say this. And in view of 207 and, you know, what happened in 2017 and after, I think we can already generate this. And anyone listening that has a Facebook or page or Twitter handle is really a media owner. So it begins there. What do I do with my media? You know, a lot of people point fingers at the Standard Group or the Nation Media Group, or, you know, media, the big boys.
The mainstream media.
Yes, but we actually are media owners just by virtue of having a phone and can exchange a WhatsApp message. What do we forward? What do we, you know, share with somebody else?
What message do we send out to others?
And what comments do we make? And I think those of us that are angry enough at what happened should begin right there by saying, no, you can't say this here. And then I would call upon, especially anyone with an office, anyone with the position of maintaining peace and order, to help us criminalize this kind of talk, this kind of behavior. And perhaps my advice would be to those people who may have funerals in the future, God forbid, I think we should put our foot down and either have the kind of private funerals that you guys were alluding to earlier, or let's just put our foot down and say no politics. And anyone who tries to plead, you know, if it takes, you know, bouncers or whatever, putting somebody out of the pulpit once they begin the politics, so be it.
So be it.
But it begins with us. I don't think we can point fingers at these guys forever. it begins with me.
True. That's very true, Ruben. And that's the same thing that C.T. Muga is basically saying. He says it begins with each one of us. And
I totally agree with
if
you.
all of us then say, I am not going to allow this to happen, I am not going to behave this way, I am not going to tolerate this kind of behavior around me, then the message spreads.
May I just say one last thing? I live in Eldoret.
Yep.
And every time we have an election, our antennas are
up
on high alert.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good thing. And part of the tension that we went through in 2007, 2008, I used to live in Nairobi. I moved here in 2004. So 2007, 2008 was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you stories about what happened. But the thing of it was, there was a time I could actually go out to buy food to the at the supermarket and even at the market.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the media reporting? Some of the media was reporting that Eldoret is a ghost town.
Yep.
And there's no activity. You can't find food. And the truth of the matter is we could find food. And there came a time when, media was called to account. So it's good that the technology is there now to, have all these programs recorded and you can recall. But I think for the journalists and those that cover these stories, maybe there is a time to give a blackout to unverified reports and, check something out before airing. And maybe we have come to a point where if such violence begins to break out and you're televising something like that, maybe just, go off air and let's not watch all this madness. No, thank you for what you guys are doing. And
Thank you very much, Ruben. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day in Eldoret.
And you too, sir.
Asante.
And lady.
Thank you.
Asante Sana. 0719-012-600. We'd also like to hear from you. What is it that we can do to course correct, to make sure that this country heads in the right direction, especially now as we build up into there's going to be a BBI referendum later this year. Then there's expected to the election that is supposed to be held next year in August. As we head towards these big political moments, how can we make sure that we go there in one piece and come out of it together? Good morning. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Did you know that knowing your HIV status is simple? You can visit your nearest health center where you will be tested for free, or you can test yourself using the self-kits sold at chemists for 500 shillings only. If you test HIV positive, don't fear, because there is medication that will allow you to live your normal life. You will also be counseled on how to live with HIV and fulfill your life goals or dreams. Knowing your HIV status as a parent is beneficial for yourself and your loved ones. Expectant mothers with HIV, did you know it's possible to deliver a healthy, uninfected baby? Visit a health facility near you during your antenatal visits to get proper information, advice, and treatment for HIV. HIV treatment can improve your overall health and can protect an unborn baby from contracting HIV before, during delivery, and after birth. We must not exclude or discriminate against our HIV-positive counterparts because living with the virus is not a curse. Follow the Ministry of Health's instructions to protect ourselves from HIV and also to protect ourselves from the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Do you know your status? This message has been brought to you by the National AIDS Control Council. Health is an important component in the life of a human being. A nation's prosperity is pegged on its citizens' well-being and proper health infrastructure. The right to health is a fundamental human right guaranteed in the Constitution of Kenya, but during this pandemic period, the health sector has faced many challenges that have affected their services. Pregnant women and those seeking reproductive health services have been the most affected. On our second episode of Kiocha Hoja, we will focus on the effects of COVID-19 on women's health and how they can be cushioned in the future.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and
all right, so we still have some traffic on Kiambu Road this morning. Getting into CBD, it's taking some time to then connect with Thika Road. Looks like it's going to take some time with that. Coming out to Outer Ring, Donholm, that area also a little bit of a clog up. Jogo Road was behaving really well today, getting out onto Landis Road and into the CBD, not having too much of an issue today. We're also looking at the Southern Bypass, heading towards Ole Sereni. Folks have been stuck in traffic for some time. It's very slow this morning. So the Southern Bypass, where we had said you could use it earlier, perhaps not right now. We need to look at that one for some time and see how that can change. Okay, so apart from that, coming out of Westlands also doesn't look too bad right now. Into the CBD also shouldn't be too much of a headache coming out of that direction. So officially traffic hour is over, but we still have some traffic in different parts. Talk to us through the day, however. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
10 o'clock. The conversation continues. Peter Mwangombe says they lust for the Tima. Their lust for the Tima won't let them. They'd rather burn this country than save it. They have chosen their path. Wakenya must choose their path as well. What is Kimaru saying?
Okay, they should be reminded that the Rome Statute requires them to take responsibility of ensuring peace in such situations. I read that particular article of the Rome Statute. Julia says, you're asking why would I change what's working for me even when it's wrong? I would, because I would want to be safe even when the shoe is on the other foot. You get the drift, I'm sure. Rigathi said something, apparently. This is what Dunson Gishana says. How many meters did Osoro walk to confront Simba? Where was Osoro sitting? Why was Millicent struggling for the mic from the governor? So now, the little details here and there of the rustle up. But, yeah.
Okay. In Nakuru, Baboidera, a very happy man, is on the line. Baboidera, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How are you, Zachary?
I'm sipping my tea. I'm a sausage there.
Hey, you today you have tea and sausage.
I know you are not having, but once we're there now, this is what we are saying, talking about the church.
Your portion ended up with some sausage.
I'm going to tell her that I am telling her that these guys are good, but they are somehow broke. So let us keep in something to them, yeah? So there is hope coming. Now, may God bless you, because you, as the man from Eldoret has said, you guys, you are a gift to us, yeah? And may God always protect you. Now, let me quickly come to the contribution, yeah? Eric, do you know that if today you are planning to go and cause chaos in your house, the government has a way of knowing, yeah? Even when you start thinking, yeah?
Yep.
Now, look here. We are in the social media now. And we can tell that this blogger is working for this person, yeah? And if you kind of look at the things that they are writing, if I was the head of the intelligence, yeah, I would actually follow these guys and stop them. Or tell them that change your ways, because, some of the things that they are writing, for us normal and peace-loving Kenyans, they are setting chills down our spine, yeah? And the government has I know they are listening, yeah? Let them start following these people. Now, the man from Eldoret has actually listed 3 sources of audiences, yeah? And one audience is now I'm talking to you. I invest on making sure that every morning I'm listening to you.
Yep.
Now, suppose you guys are telling us to go and cause it, or you are telling me, putting in my mind that I should get other people. Can I listen to you if I'm normal?
You will definitely not do that.
Now, and I'm the one who is going to, oh, this guy is not, that's not my kind of diet, yeah?
Yes.
Funerals. Mr. Eric, if I die today, and I have told my and the rest, yeah? I do not need 100 people to come and bury me, actually. It's only a close neighbor and very close friends, like you now, you can probably...
Zachary, may I say something?
Say something, Maureen.
Even if you have a will, the problem is once you die, you no longer have a say as to what happens in that funeral. And you can't even determine the number of people who are going to come.
No, if they don't follow,
yes,
I will be coming to them at the night. And I will now, the other source for him is the church. Let me tell you, Mr. Eric, if I go to church and there comes to be a politician, whether he has brought a billion or what, and he starts talking and things that are going to make me hate Mwarimdi because he is a rule, I will eventually walk out. So we are the people who are encouraging these people. Okay?
Yep.
If it is the roadside rally, why? First of all, you're in COVID times, yeah? Unless that person has told me, oh, now today I'm Jesus and I'm going to hero you and I'm going to make your pocket full of money and, I won't go there.
You won't go there. So basically, all of us have a role to play here.
We have. And the other thing, Maureen, yeah? This thing of school and rest is disturbing us, all of us, and we are told that we should look for a solution, yeah? And in particular, I'm very, very, very much advised. You know what I was thinking, and I know because the government is listening, they should probably take my kind of thinking, yeah? If suppose a school is burnt down, yeah? See, these kids are going to be sent home.
They are.
When they are sent home, if they are going to responsible parents, yeah? If Waidera comes and says, I'm now back home because we have burnt down our school, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell her, because you are also, I'm treating you as a suspect, that you can also ban us here, yeah? You can also ban us in this house, yeah? What I'm going to do, you are not even going to see here, you are not even going to, in fact, you are going out for security to be between us and you, okay? You are heading right away to the police station. And
so you'll take action on her?
I'm going to take her to the police station and she's going to be processed, she's going to be taken as a suspect. And once all of us combine in that, I'm telling you that...
The message will be home.
The message these kids are going to be brought down actually. Yeah?
Thank you, Zachary.
This is what I'm going to do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Zachary. We wish you a good day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a lovely one. Enjoy the sausage.
Thank you.
Okay. Duncan in Oyugis.
Yes, habari yako?
Mzuri sana. Good morning to you.
I'd like to put my 2 cents on what has been happening.
All right.
And we have a group of people who are above the law. Apparently, the police are not doing their job. And if they would have been doing what they are supposed to be doing, we would never face such things in the first place. But we have a problem with leadership, whether in the police or political. We have to let the police do their...
Lost Duncan in Oyugis. Hope you can manage to call back, Duncan. Yep, this conversation continues. There's a role that all of us can play, and that's a role that we want to start that conversation on, even going forward. That's what we keep talking about here on a daily basis. What is it that we do that encourages bad behavior? What is it that we can do that can discourage bad behavior?
Or encourage good behavior.
Good behavior, yes.
You know, the thing that is the center of our discussion is actually violence. Huh? But if you look at our daily lives, we may not see this, but whether it is movies, whether it is cartoons, whether if you go back into history and look at other cultures, when you talk about gladiators fighting animals and fighting each other to death, okay? Whether you look at certain sports, whether it's violence against a piece of leather or a piece of plastic called a ball, the only thing that makes us accept the violence is that there are rules and regulations that are followed, and there's a referee who everybody has to obey and listen to. And the consequences are immediate. You even see it. You disobey the referee, the whistle is blown, red card, you go, you see it. But we live with violence every single day of our lives. You look at bullfighting in Spain. Can anything get more violent than that? Okay? If you look at many traditions, like my background, brides were abducted, meaning if you wanted a bride, you took your cousins and brothers and waited for the young lady to go to collect water. Abducted. And usually,
married.
Yes, and it was known. So the brothers would also be waiting, and some fight ensued. People didn't get killed, but they most certainly got injured. Some even got maimed. I'm saying that violence has been a part of our lives for the longest time. And we accommodate it on a day-to-day basis without actually understanding how it influences. In fact, the person who brought my attention the fact that cartoons are violent was President Moi, the former president, the late President Moi. He was talking about cartoons and saying some of these things are very violent. And he was right, because if you remove the cartoon element from it, man, the amount of injury that takes place.
It's all violence.
Like Tom and Jerry. Goodness gracious me. Even look at Popeye. There's someone who's always really being served some serious amount of beating at any given moment in time. And it's consistent. Now, if you look at the African concept of discipline, it's violence. Caning, it's violence. Controlled, but it's violence. So, what are we saying? Are we saying that the referees in this particular violence, in this particular arena that we call politics, the referees are not clear, and where they are clear, they don't seem to be doing their job. And we're also saying that if they are doing their job, then we would accept it.
The referees have been disempowered. Because the referees do exist. We have all these institutions, those are the referees. We have got the police, we've got the Cohesion and Integration Commission, we've got the DCI, you've got the intelligence, like all the callers are saying. All these are the referees. But somehow, they've been disempowered. And the final referee, the bigger referee, is a spectator, even in a football match. If the spectators feel that this thing is going the wrong way, they walk out.
They do.
Well, in some cases, they walk in.
Players even walk out, even when they feel the referee. In fact, it's in sports. When the players feel the referee isn't doing the job, they stop playing, they walk out.
They walk out. And this does not mean that the players have never made a wrong move before.
No.
It means that at this moment, they're seeing that things are not going as they should, and we are not going to be party to this competition anymore. Make a statement. It's either for the game to be reinstated under the right rules, or we say stop this thing completely.
And another day, and you change the referee. We can't have this same referee.
We can't have the same referee. Let's move on. So let's hear from Mila Menga as we continue the conversation. Mila is in Siaya. Good morning, Mila.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you today?
I'm okay. Iti and Indy.
We have received greetings, and we also sent them back in a big basket.
Thank you so much. Now, for what happened yesterday, allow me to first congratulate the former Prime Minister and William Ruto for sitting together. You know the level of political tolerance in Kenya. It is above average. If you look at countries which are neighboring us, those are things that you rarely see. The level of violence that the incumbent always put on those who are opposing them is so high that when you see people who are political antagonists sitting together, you are amazed. You appreciate what is going on in our country. Two, I want to when the Right Honorable Prime Minister comes on Thursday, I want you to kindly ask him one question. Why does he inspire violence? And when you meet William Ruto, ask the Deputy President, why does he inspire violence? Because you rarely see these things in Mudavidi's events, you rarely see these things in Kalonzo's events, and you see these things in these people's events. Meaning, when they meet in their rooms and they talk, Raila inspires violence in Simba, and Ruto inspires violence in so my and this worries me because let me make an assumption, if you allow me. Raila gets presidency. The BBI team, that is Kalonzo, Mudavadi, and the arrangements that we are seeing currently, and they get into leadership and they get into the government. And Raila still inspires violence in the government. And assume that Ruto becomes an opposition leader and inspires violence in the opposition.
Yeah.
You know, this is something that we are going to go with in the next 10 years. And again, after 10 years, let me assume that going with the statistics and saying that if you go to the backyard of Ruto, currently, if Raila is out of the equation, Ruto will be having more votes in his backyard than any other politician then in the next 10 years. So he will be a potential presidential candidate. And if he gets into presidency and inspires violence for another 10 years, it means that Kenya will be violent for around 20 years. So that is something that we must interrogate seriously, with all the respect that we give to this gentleman. Two, I want us to face the problem and the question that you answered, and I want to appreciate Spice FM for introducing Mjadala. That is a wonderful platform because in 2013, the total number of votes that were there was 19 million, and currently it stands at around 29 million. Meaning, we have 10 million young people who are getting into voting. These are the violent people that you are seeing, and you know there are two things here that we must differentiate. What happened in Raila's rally and in Burma, that level of violence.
Yeah,
it's so different with the violence we saw in the barrier, because the violence we saw in the burial, if you go to the police today and you want to take an OB about what happened at the burial ceremony, what will be the case? What will you, if you go to the police? I see people
what will
are
the complaint
accusing
be?
them. What will be the complaint be? Yeah. What will be the complaint be? Now let me assume that it is Cindy Arati who goes to the police station. What will be he doesn't, what happened doesn't even meet threshold of an assault. It doesn't meet the threshold of an assault. But then these are people, and when you see what they were doing, and I like what City is saying, this is drama. This is political drama. This is like a movie. Yes. And you know when you watch a movie, there's a boss. There's someone who always, people start to the drama, and like Cindy and the gentleman that I was seeing, I can't remember the name of this young MP, who was wearing a tie and going to, you know why people wear ties in honorable places, so that you become honorable, because a tie is a tool that somebody can use very easily to throttle you.
There's something I'm not getting here, Mila. Are you saying that because there was no blood that was spilled, because there was no limb that was injured, that then police would have nothing to act on such a gathering?
No. We are specifically, we want the police to take action, and the only way the police can take action is when a case is reported, and that is where they start the action. No.
That is not the only way. Police have a role to maintain law and order.
Yes.
When they're maintaining law and order, it is not because there is a complaint that has been raised. No. It's them observing and seeing this breakage of law and order here. So,
But-
in the
but-
same way we
yeah.
say, so for example, in a political rally and skirmishes erupt, they don't sit back at the police station and wait. So one of you come back to the police and report, then we can come and take action.
No.
So they take action
they're
immediately.
there to maintain order.
Now, let us. I agree, but let us bring the intelligence, because if that is the case, then the intelligence could have known that there's going to be such level of skirmishes. But I saw the order was maintained. Order was maintained immediately after what happened.
Okay.
That is what I saw. But that is, I wanted to dichotomize. I wanted to differentiate it with what us do. And that is why I want to appreciate Spice FM. The people who are inspired by this kind of drama end up killing themselves, physically fighting and killing themselves. While these people, don't they just, no, let me put it this way. They do a bad thing, and we do the worst thing.
After that.
Yes. So the people who have a problem are us. We don't differentiate, and I want to offer the solution. This is what reflects in what is happening in our schools today. Yeah, if you see the level of felony that we see in our schools, it is inspired by political drama that Kenyans cannot differentiate. This is drama, because if they want to fight, they can fight and kill themselves there and there. Actually, I
So Mila, you're saying because we should be able to differentiate political drama and what is serious, and we should therefore allow and tolerate the political drama.
Yeah, if we understand that this is political drama, yes, then we can differentiate and we can sit back and laugh and enjoy the drama,
But it's a little bit more than that, Miller, if you want to look at it properly, yeah? Because there are people who are watching politicians and then accept that behavior as what should be. And I think that's the danger that lies. We talk about statements that people make when they're in positions of leadership that people take for gospel truth. The way in which they behave, then that people take then as the accepted behavior. We cannot stay away from the risk that lies in political leaders behaving in a certain way that then will be emulated by people who are watching them. And I think that's a very dangerous place to be at, to say that the way in which they act, the way in which they speak will not then be taken over by other people. We can't do that. We can't say that and say, let's just look at it and say it's just drama and it really doesn't matter. It matters. It does.
Even if it's drama, Miller, there is a certain code of conduct that we expect to be upheld by every citizen of this country. And if you're in a position of leadership, then we expect you to hold an even higher standard. Because you are an example, whether you like it or not.
And that's why I said when the Prime Minister comes or when you meet the Deputy President, ask them why they inspire violence.
Okay.
We are not disagreeing on that fact.
Okay.
Yeah, and that they must be faced head on why they inspire violence. And that one I'm not arguing about. Yeah.
We will actually raise that question. Thank you very much, Mila.
Yes, karibu sana.
Asante sana. Yep, one of the questions that has already been put forth for Raila Odinga when he joins us on Thursday. So he'll be here with us on Thursday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., where we'll be having a lot of conversations about what's happening in the country. And already the questions are being posed on social media. What is it that you'd like the former Prime Minister and leader of the opposition, Raila Odinga, to respond to as we continue with this? So, sitting, as we conclude, we are violent in nature. We use violence as source of entertainment.
Yes, we do.
We have some sort of rules and games on how we then deal with this violence. So how do we translate that into what we're seeing politically in the country?
Have you ever watched a game of tennis? Have you seen the amount of violence that is actually meted on that ball? On that unsuspecting ball? Anyway.
Wow.
It's not a conversation that you begin and end with a statement. No. It's a continuous discussion.
It's a continuous one.
Yes, because views differ. There will be people who don't even think or have not pondered to consider that some of the things that they are accustomed to are actually violent. They don't relate the two. Okay?
It becomes so normal that this is how
Yes.
life is.
Look at someone who watches, say, movies, violent movies where people are killed and knifed. You may not know the impact of that violence that you're watching and what it does to you and how it influences your thinking.
Going forward.
To understand it, you need to look at the violent speech that people have. When someone wants to describe a simple matter, simple activity, or express an anger, a 4-letter word comes to play. It's violence, because there are people who hear it and it assaults their very being, just listening and hearing it. Exactly.
Okay, today's proverb.
When a woman goes on a secret trip, she gathers firewood and returns home. It's a clear justification for the trip. It is her who knows it is secret. For the rest of you, because she's come back with firewood, she had gone to collect firewood.
Everything else she picked up along the way could have just been props.
Whether she
for your
did or didn't,
expectations.
it's neither here
It's
nor
neither here
Nor
nor
there.
there.
Yes.
All right. So as long as the lesson here is to the woman, come back with firewood.
Nobody's going to ask you any questions.
Yep. And your secret remains a secret.
Or carry a pot so that you come back with water.
With water. And your secret remains a secret. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow, same time, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. CT Muga, Nduoko, and Eric Latif. Wishing you a lovely day. You have uninterrupted music until 3 o'clock, when Monique will be here on Spice Drive to take you home until 7, and then the adults in the room will be here from 7.